Tweeted it out. I said we're doing this thing.
Yeah, I know. I saw the tweet.
There we go. And we are live. Welcome to Talking Heads, your once weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news, episode 125, this week Socially Distant. I'm Jeff.
I'm Steve.
Welcome to the show, everybody. How's it going tonight? Steve, how you doing over there in wherever the heck you happen to be?
I'm doing pretty good. I just lost your audio, though.
Oh, can you still hear me?
It's back. I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe some hiccups going on with audio, but hey, so far it's so good.
Awesome. Make sure you mute your side too, because I think I just heard my voice come through your side. Just briefly.
I have it. Does it really?
Just briefly. I heard like a 6 or 7 second delay. So.
Okay.
Who knows?
I don't have you going through my speakers. You're going through my headset. So I don't
okay. No. If you open the YouTube video, is that going through your speakers?
No, I have my speakers muted.
Okay. Perfect.
And it says an error occurred. Did you try back later? I don't know.
Interesting. Well, it says we're live. Whoa, we dropped.
Oh, there it is.
That was interesting.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, YouTube just threw up on itself for a second there because my analytics went from like 45 down to 5 concurrent users and then back up to 25.
Oh wow.
So, anyway,
I'm so small. How come I'm small and you're big?
Because it's my show, and I've got the better camera.
Yeah, I know that's true. It's gonna make my camera look a little better.
That's right.
Camera.
That's right.
Okay.
You're lucky I didn't base it on resolution.
Oh yeah, that's. Well, I think this is set to 720. I think that's what it is. I don't know. I don't care.
It might be. Who knows?
Yeah. All right, I shut it off.
If it was 720, you'd be like a shoulder patch on me.
It's just like a little tiny thing. Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the show, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well tonight. It has definitely been an interesting, couple of weeks at this point for at least myself. I know it's been an interesting couple of months for some people abroad. In the U.S., we're finally starting to get really serious about this thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you actually do.
Yep.
Anyway, in accordance with the current shelter-in-place issue in Oregon, as well as the overall enthusiasm for social distancing I've gathered over the last couple of weeks, from here on out, Talking Heads will be a remote-only show. But we will still be coming to you, same bat time, same bat channel, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Pacific. It's just we won't have a guest in studio for the foreseeable future.
Yep, for a while.
But on the plus side, we are still drinking beer. Now, if you haven't seen the show before, we do talk about beer on the show for about the first 20 minutes, give the latest in beer, alcohol, bar, whatever related news. We move on into tech talk at about the 8:20 mark, talk about tech for about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes, and then we wrap up the show with pop culture, games, entertainment, pretty much anything that interests us. We do drink alcohol on the show, however, we keep the content friendly in both language and content. If you are drinking along with us, it can be alcoholic or not, please let us know. We will get some shout outs in the chat early on. And like I said, we are drinking beer on the show. Steve, what are you drinking on the show tonight?
I can go first. So, my very first beer is a big one. I actually had to split this one with my wife because I would be trash if I tried to finish this all by myself. This is Barrelick Brewing's Woodworker. I don't know if you can see that there.
You know, I probably should have created you a full screen thing, so if you're doing all the talking, I can go full screen with you.
Oh, I see. So you can swap them back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have done that.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So this is the Woodworker series called Old Blood and Guts, and it's a dry hopped American barley wine aged in Kentucky bourbon barrels.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good old barley wine.
Barley wine. I love barley wines.
And what's the ABV on that one? You said it was a big one.
It's a big one. It's 11.4.
Nice.
So very, very
well,
big.
I will almost be matching you in my second beer of the night. I think I'll introduce that one first. I'm going to be drinking Deschutes The Abyss 2019 Reserve. This is, and I quote, an imperial stout brewed with blackstrap molasses and licorice, dry spiced with cherry bark and vanilla bean, 50% aged in bourbon, wine, and new American oak barrels. And John, I hope you're watching.
Yeah.
I know you're watching.
Abyss is delicious. I've had it several times. It's very,
Yeah.
very good.
I've had the 2017. I've not had the 2019 yet, and I am definitely looking forward to this. This is an 11.2 and definitely over 100 calories.
Yeah. Definitely.
What's your second drink up there, Steve? You got anything else queued up?
I do. I have two more because we normally do three. So
Yeah.
I got more. I got It's Too Foggy by True Respite.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, this is one I got from Tavor. It's a
Okay.
hazy. It's a double IPA, 8%. I don't know if it says what kind of hops. It does not say what kind of hops they use. Oh no, wait, here it is at the bottom. Centennial, Strata, and Lemon Drop and Mosaic.
Ooh.
I don't know if you ever
Nice.
had a beer with lemon drop hops in it. It's pretty good.
I have. They are quite good.
Yeah, they're very good.
My second beer is I've got Level Brewing out of Portland, so I've got a couple of Oregon beers here today. Pale to the People. I've had this one on the show a couple of times. I think once on Talking Heads and once in a just regular filmed video. But just a good Northwest IPA, nice and bright. 6.1%. Very hoppy. So should be a good beer. Beervana's 2018 Beer of the Year.
Oh. And my last one here is Contact Haze by Legion.
Nice.
That's another hazy.
Yep.
Actually, I picked this up because it was I've never seen a hazy from Elysian before, and
Right.
it was cheap. So it was like
Really?
it was like only $8 for a 6-pack, which is usually like it's usually 9 or 10.
I can tell you John is watching because in the chat he just said, "You both suck."
Yeah. Oh yeah, there he is. I see him.
Poor old John.
Yeah.
I will say I was so fed up with what I had to drink on the show last week. I went to the store and I was just in Safeway and they have their little end cap of like craft beers. And they have like some $2 and $3 craft beers. I think I picked up like a bunch of their like 19 ounce like $2.50 beers. I got a Hot Bullet. I got a
Hot Bullet's good, yeah.
I picked up one of those. I got a Widmer. What is their big IPA that they do?
Oh, it starts with an H,
Yeah.
like Heartbreaker or something. I forget. I know. What you're
Yeah,
talking about.
something like that. Anyway, it's Widmer's Big IPA. It's an 8.5% IPA. I got one of those. I got quite a few others. I spent like $20, but on the $2.50 beers because I was so ticked off with John for making me try Corona Seltzer.
Oh, we got what's this? Trick Logic. The eighth state Untitled Art Macadamia White Chocolate Stout, 15%. That looks delicious.
Yeah. Let's see. Anthroplexus has an AleSmith 394 San Diego Pale Ale.
Yeah.
Dessert after my girlfriend brought us Indian food. Trick Logic. Dark Storm 1 Glenlivet 12 Year on the Rocks. Excellent.
Nice. That's a good one, yeah.
Love Glenlivet. Never Better DIPA and a Kevik from Reverend Arrow there. John again, you both suck.
Yeah.
Never heard of that one, John.
No, well, it's probably a low calorie one.
It's probably locale.
They're-
Somewhere in
they're
the
not-
80 range.
They're not even hiding it. They're just saying that they suck.
Right. Let's see. Reverend Killing Younglings.
Younglings, I see. Like,
Skull's got an Evil Twin Brewing All Galaxy Diane IPA. DJ's got a Fourth Row Blonde Soul Squared Brewing. Big Spoon. You can still make a full screen of Mr. 720, 10 seconds of work. Yeah, but I'd have to kill the screen real quick, and I've got a bunch of audio to redo here. If one of the other scenes is there, I can actually switch over to like my full screen, and then what I'll do is duplicate that, and I'll say scene 7, and then I will add Mr. 720p,
all right.
which is a full display, and that is Discord video. There's Mr. 720 himself. Oops.
Hey.
Come on, there we go. And we're going to make him nice and big, and we'll put the overlay on top. And there you go. You have your own full screen there, Steve.
I do.
So,
I'm waiting. I gotta wait.
Yep.
I got 3 monitors going on here, and
Yeah. Well, I've got 3 as well.
Okay.
If everyone wants to see what I'm chatting with Steve with, it's actually my little 7-inch monitor, my field monitor with an HDMI coming in, so I can see him in a full screen.
Yeah.
But yep. Oh, there it's live for you. So
Oh, there it is. I see
you should
now.
see it now. Yep. Oh,
I do.
and there's our. Okay. Sorry, there's like I said, there's some new hotkeys to work out here, and in fact, I got to add another one because Mr. Big Spoon wanted to see Steve in full screen, so now Steve has his own full screen.
Yeah, not a very good camera. It's just a stupid laptop camera, but.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, Jeff does have
you're right,
better
that is
cameras to loan
terrible.
me. Yeah, it's.
That is terrible.
Well, let's keep it small.
Oh. F5 is not the right one. So F6 is this, F7 is you full screen, F1 is me full screen, and F4 is our browser. So we can both see the news. Let's see. 8th State, Untitled Art, Macadamia White Chocolate Stout, 15%. If anyone's got anything beyond 15% that's not liquor, I'd love to know about it. Sycamore by Mountain Candy, nice. Salted Caramel Temptress by from Isaac, Lakewood Brewing. Big Big's got a campfire stout and some Jack on the side. Am I participating in the folding at home? I am not, mainly because I have some GPUs that I could throw at it, but they'd probably have to go in my server rack because I'd probably like to throw all of them into a single server right now. And quite honestly, my UPS wouldn't handle that load on that circuit because that circuit's a little bit overloaded already. So I'm not going to participate, but I've been putting all of my people to either go to Linus or to Barnacules. Barnacules just broke out his 8 GPU GTX 1060 rig. So I've been kind of pointing everyone his direction if you want to join in. He did post on Twitter what his group ID was, so if you want to join him up, go follow Barnacules on Twitter. Barnacules Nerdgasm. Good old Jerry. And what's John drinking tonight? Reverend wants to know.
He said sparkling water is what he said. Carbonated water.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, we are already about 10 minutes into this show, so I forgot to get glassware. So let me do that real quick.
I got my glassware. I had to bring it. I don't have a bar in my office, not like some of us. I have to import all my glassware and then set it next to me.
All right, so again, I'm going to start with the Level Beer Pale to the People. And while I'm pouring this, let's get into our first news story here.
That's right.
So
I think we talked about items like this, similar items to this.
Yes, we have before.
Yeah.
LG was going to come out with their little compact home brewer. There's the Pico Brew also. I think it's the Pico Brew, which also is attempting to be like a countertop home brewer. Right. The problem with both of those is both of those are genuine brew processes. They take 3 weeks to get you a beer.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not single glass serving. So while they're trying to market those as the Keurig of beer, it's really a different market because you're making a gallon or 2 gallons at a time, and it takes 3 weeks to produce, and then you can pour yourself a pint.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my wife lost the cat. She walked in and went, no, wait. So, anyway.
They're good at charades. Yeah.
Yes. Actually, that's ASL for cat.
Oh, is it?
Yep. So,
anyway. I've been doing that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. You're a poet and you didn't even know it.
Right.
So the Keurig of beers may actually finally be here. DrinkWorks, which has already put out a home cocktail machine, is actually putting out a single-serve beer Keurig machine. So I'm a little confused as far as what this actually is, because I don't know if it's like a freeze-dried beer or if they're going with like beer essence with like powdered alcohol in the mix and pushing that through, or if this is like an essential oil mixer thing or what.
See, that would be my guess. I'm thinking it's like an oil or a highly concentrated liquid, and they just add carbonated water to it. That's
kind of my guess. Yeah, that's kind of my guess as well.
And although it's kind of novel, I guess they I think it even said in the article that it's still the same price.
Right.
So you're not saving any money by having this. It's just the whole novelty of it.
What are you doing up?
Oh.
Do you want to say hi to everyone? Hi everyone. Yeah. Say hi there a little bit. Yeah. Oh, hi there. I don't know what you're doing up, but hi.
She snuck in.
Yep, she snuck in. So, yeah, I'm really curious to find out what this will actually, number one, taste like, because if it doesn't taste very good, there's no point to it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not cheaper and better and more convenient than regular beer, again, to break into a food product, you have to be one of those things.
Yes.
And I don't see this as really being any of those things.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, like you said, it's unless there's a cost savings some way involved, I don't understand how this would even be appealing to people. I mean, it seems like you're going through more of a hassle to get a beer than just opening up a bottle and pouring it in a glass.
Right. And like I said, you're certainly not getting a higher quality. I mean, even I'd go as far as even saying the domestics, you're not going to get a higher quality one.
No.
You know, I'd rather buy a bottle of Heineken probably than drink one of these. And that's just guessing on what's in the pods. Like I said, it's not going to be a full quality beer that was kegged and shipped or bottled or whatever else. It's going to be some kind of concentrate, some kind of powdered alcohol mix that you add sparkling water to.
Everyone's like, "Oh, no, you gotta age your beers. No, you gotta try it fresh on tap." It's like, no.
Right.
The big brain option is to squeeze a highly concentrated version of the beer through some kind of Keurig machine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the new hotness now.
Yeah. So I don't know what to think of this. Like, I'd like to think it's innovative. I'd like to think there's something cool that's going to come out of it. Because DrinkWorks has made a cocktail machine before.
Yeah.
And they're trying to break into that home, automatically make yourself a cocktail, pre-blended kind of thing. Right. But even that has been met with kind of some mixed reviews. I've seen, I think it was the Educated Barfly did a full review on a bunch of the cocktail pods that they made. Yeah. And he goes, you still have to add half the ingredients to it. It doesn't come with any garnishes. And it's certainly not, a mid-shelf liquor that they're using. It's like an Everclear that they water down into your cocktail with like some essential flavoring kind of stuff. Yeah. So Mama's coming. Yeah, Mama's coming. She's right there. Good night, Bet. Love you.
Come on, Z.
He's all right for now. Oh, it's gonna be a fun show. The dog's in here now too. Rawr. Say hi, everyone.
See, now you're alone in your office, and everybody thinks it's like, oh, it's okay to come in.
Oh yeah, he's not working right now.
He's not
come on in.
It's fine. Just
come on in.
Come on in.
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept, and I think it really just gonna amount to a party trick. It's like, hey guys, check this out. There's a beer. Right. Hey. That's about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't think of much use beyond that.
Nope.
And even then, thinking about it, like you're still paying probably what $200 to $300 for the drink maker itself.
Yeah. It can't be cheap.
And then $2 a pod.
Probably more. I was gonna say 2 because I think it's 16 ounces. You get
it's 14 ounce. Yeah, it's 14 ounce draught.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. But it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you were able to get it like super cheap, okay, I get it. But
yeah.
Doesn't seem like it's gonna be so.
Pale to the People. Good IPA.
Oh yeah, this one's actually quite tasty. It's not my. I have a hard time. I love barley wines. My absolute favorite though is Mother of All Storms.
Yes.
So every time I have a barley wine, I always compare it to that, and this is a fine one.
Nice.
But it's no Mother of All Storms. But it's very good. It's kind of a sweet, plummy. You definitely have those bourbon notes are definitely in there. It's very, very good. Good mouthfeel, not super thick, but not thin. It's not like a super thin one. So it's a good all around. I give it 3.75, bordering on 4 on that thing.
That's a pretty good rating. I'll take that. Yeah, I've got the like I said, Pale to the People. It is definitely not a clear IPA, as you can probably tell from the video there, but it is remarkably crisp. It's not a hazy IPA either. It's just not clear. Right. So there's no lactose, there's no acid burn in it at all. This is an IPA you can drink all day, and it's not overly complex, but what's there is really, really good. And I say that about a lot of level beers. They're not beers that really make you think, but they're exactly what they set out to be. Yeah. And if this is using, Mosaic and Citra hops, you taste Mosaic and Citra hops and a little bit of orange and lemon peel, and that's about it. Yeah. But it's always very well balanced. I don't think I've ever really been disappointed with anything from Level. Like they're certainly not the best beers on the planet, as they're not super complex or super needy from you as a drinker, but they're good and they're exactly what they say they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no problem with Level. They're very good. They make some really good straightforward beers, and they all taste good. So I got no complaints with Level.
I recognize those Monoprice earbuds. Best earbuds under $10. Absolutely. These are $7.99 on Monoprice, and they are freaking amazing. They have, what are they? I forget what driver is in them, but these will actually kick with bass, and they're super inexpensive. I think I have 6 pairs of these because I have one in like every backpack that I have, and they're just super amazing and super comfortable. I wear them all day long most times. So yeah, no, they're one of my favorite earbuds. So good eyes. All right, what do we got next? Let me pull up my list here. Here we go.
Next.
Hey, and I hit the right button.
Hey, all right.
Yay, we're moving right along. So I don't know what to think of this one.
Yeah, I'm surprised John hasn't jumped on.
Hasn't had this yet.
Yeah. For how much he loves those low calorie beers. So we have a new low calorie beer.
It's a beer. It's a seltzer. It's both.
A beer. It's a seltzer. It's both. It's kind of. I guess they took a beer and watered it down, and then they added some flavoring to it.
Well, they say they took a seltzer and they added beer to it.
Yeah. So, whatever. But it is low ABV. It is from Leinenkugel, who makes all those summer shandies and lemon shandies and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't like those, but it looks like they got some various flavors. They're going to have a grapefruit, pineapple, strawberry, raspberry, lemon, raspberry lemon, not raspberry and lemon.
Yeah, you've got to have 2 flavors in a.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, they're mixing a beer and a seltzer, so it's a lemon beer and a raspberry seltzer.
Right. Well, you can't have a pina and a colada. You've got to have, got to get both in there.
You got to get the coconut seltzer with whatever, the pineapple beer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Leinenkugel out of Wisconsin. Definitely a new idea. This is the first of this kind that I've heard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's just going to taste like super sweet beers like Leinenkugel. They're even their summer shandies are borderline beer. I mean, they're so sweet anyway.
Yes.
So this kind of makes sense that they'd put something like this out because there's that whole craze. They're just putting their own little twist on it. I don't think it's going to taste any different or that much different to make a huge splash outside of it just being, well, it's not a beer and it's not a seltzer. It's in between. It's some monster hybrid that we cooked up in the lab. That's about it.
Yep, exactly. I don't want to try this. I really don't. I don't want to try this one.
Oh,
John.
I'm sure if my wife finds it in the store, she'll buy it, and I will eventually try it. Oh, and speaking of which, I actually did get to try a Bud Light Orange.
Oh yeah.
Because she really wanted to try one, and so I got her one, and it is all the things I hate about this type of beer. It was
yes.
I don't mind Bud Light Lime. That's okay. I don't mind.
I tried the Bud Light Lime, and I will say it's not terrible. It's not good.
No, it's
but
not
it's
good.
not terrible.
But I like literally this Bud Light Orange. I had one sip and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to touch it again.
Yep.
Yeah, it was not good.
Questionable commands. Late to the party, but I got a Black Butte Porter tonight. Excellent.
I didn't hear that.
Questionable commands has a Black Butte Porter in
Black
the
Butte
chat.
Porter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good old Deschutes.
Yeah, Black Butte Porter actually probably one of the first beers that kind of introduced me to craft beer.
Yes, myself as well.
Yeah. I love that stuff. I still like it.
Yep, I still grab probably a 12-pack once a year or so
Yeah.
of it, just to have around.
Yeah, it's good standard staple.
Yep, exactly. Let's see. We do have a little bit of pandemic news tonight, and that is a little bit of relief effort from Ryan Reynolds a la Aviation Gin. And this one was really, really cool to see. So Ryan Reynolds, if you didn't know, is the owner of Aviation Gin, a Portland-based gin, now owned by a Canadian. And he has set up essentially a relief fund, and every bottle of Aviation Gin they sell online until May 1st, 30% of all proceeds will be going to a fund to help out-of-work bartenders. And obviously it's an industry that he himself connects with. I mean, he owns a distillery. And bars were one of the first businesses that were severely impacted by this whole pandemic because of the restaurant closures and bar closures. You can't exactly do takeout bars, at least in Oregon you can't. California did give authority for people to do curbside cocktail drop-offs. So you can actually still order a cocktail in California, but you can't do that in Oregon.
Can't drink it on the way home, though. I mean,
right?
I don't know
you can do curbside cannabis pickup in Oregon, but not cocktails.
Yes, you can do curbside cannabis. But
Yep.
Yeah.
We do have that. But no, this is really cool. This is Ryan just saying, hey, we make Aviation Gin. I like the company. I like bartenders. I want to give 30% of all proceeds away to bartenders until May 1st.
Yeah.
So if you haven't had Aviation Gin before, go get a bottle. It is a little bit less on the botanical side, and I would say a little bit more on the lemon side of things.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
But it's a phenomenal entry-level gin to get you used to what should I be tasting in a gin without going way over the top with the spruce and the junipers and that kind of stuff, and making your mouth taste like pine sol. So if you're curious about what gin tastes like and want an entry level into it, Aviation is freaking fantastic for that. And it goes to a good cause right now if you buy it online. So if you're available or if you're able to get alcohol online through an online retailer, go do that.
Yeah, we have Darkstorm 1 who says he's a bartender. So go help him out.
Yeah.
And buy some Aviation Gin. I got a couple bottles of it.
Say I'm an out of work bartender. You see that? But I come home to make my drinks. So
yeah, you bartend yourself. You've bartended yourself.
I have 40 bottles over there.
You've been tended.
I have 14 bottles of whiskey on my shelf right now.
Yeah. That's the thing I don't like about this remote hosting, is after the stream I can't sample all your whiskeys. I have to go through my collection.
Yeah, drink your own stash.
Not as fun. Not as fun to waste my own stuff. Much more fun to waste yours.
Linux Guru says gin tastes like a pine tree. Go try Aviation Gin.
Some do, yes.
Yeah, or Crater Lake Distillery actually makes a gin out of Bend, Oregon. That is also fantastic. That is a little bit less on the juniper and pine tree side of things. Yeah. But you still get a lot of the those outdoorsy notes that you should get from a gin.
I've had some gins that were very heavy on like the cucumber side of things. Like a very cucumbery. Still has some of the pine juniper in there too, but it was different. Gins have different things. It all depends on the botanicals they put in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a gin out of Corvallis, Oregon called Vivacity, and that is one of my favorites because it tastes like Eastern Oregon. All the spruce trees that we have over there, and I know Steve, as soon as you drive in Eastern Oregon, there's that smell. It's the smell of the trees and the sap that's there, especially if you're walking through the the high desert forests and whatnot that we have here.
Oh yeah.
You know that smell. That's what that gin tastes like.
Yes.
And I've actually developed 2 different cocktails with that gin. One of which I call an Origin, because to me it tastes like you're walking through Oregon. So. Vivacity, great gin if you like more of the very heavy woody and pine and botanical flavors. Crater Lake gin or Aviation if you want to get started, or maybe that's not your wheelhouse. Maybe go that way. But Bombay Sapphire, pretty smooth. I do like a good Bombay Sapphire. I switch between
actually the not Hendrix, but Hendrix gin.
Hendrix is pretty good. I usually go back and forth for like my house gin that I keep on my shelf here. That when people come over, they go, "Oh, can you make me a gin cocktail?" Yeah, that's my house gin. Is either Bombay Sapphire or the Gordon's London Dry.
Yeah, I personally, from my house, I like the New Amsterdam.
Yeah, they're good as well.
I think we talked about this just last week.
I think we did. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
We did talk.
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. Someone asked us what's a good starting bottle, or what's your $100 bar?
Yeah.
I think was the question. New Amsterdam is usually my vodka. In fact, there's a bottle of it right there.
Yeah. Boop.
There. So, yeah. And last but not least, if you've been thinking about adopting a dog and you'd like 3 months worth of free beer, maybe now's the time to get on board with that.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, you have to drink Busch, but during the month of April until April 22nd, if you go out and adopt a dog from the Midwest Animal Rescue Services, Busch is offering a free 3-month supply of beer to anyone who fosters or adopts a dog from the rescue. So any affiliated rescues that are there, if you go and adopt a puppy, you can get 3 months worth of beer.
Yep.
If you can call it beer.
If you can call it beer. I mean, if you don't want the beer, you could put it in the dog food, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Beer's good. Beer's good. Beer. I mean, that's not really beer, so it's not going to hurt the dog.
It's practically water.
It's going to be fine. I think he'll be okay. But yeah.
Yep. Someone says, I like that refrigerator. Thank you. I designed all of this before I even bought my house. Like, we made the offer, and I started catting out this whole office space to make sure everything would fit. And I actually found that fridge on a Black Friday deal at Home Depot. And it's the perfect size. It's exactly what I was looking for. It's like this old 60s style fridge.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. So, thank you. Hendrix is the gold standard. I don't know if Hendrix is the gold standard. I think they're a really good gin, but they're certainly not the best gin.
I like them.
I like Hendrix. I've got nothing against Hendrix, but there are better gins out there. There are much better gins out there. It's like, Seagram is the gold standard as far as like what I'd buy to keep around my house as far as like, hey, I need a whiskey cocktail. Seagram 7 is my house whiskey. It's a good whiskey. It's not the best whiskey. Mm-hmm. So, but it's good. All right. Let's see. Moving on into some tech news now. How's your first beer going there, Steve?
I'm still halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
Doing pretty good. I'm just sipping along because this is a big one.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking my time here. I mean, if you want me to chug it, I can chug it.
That's up to you, my friend. You got 2 more to go.
I'm not gonna.
I've only got 1 more planned.
That's right. Yeah, but you're drinking a full giant.
I'm drinking a bomber of 11 too.
Yeah.
Yeah. 10 minutes before the show, Steve and I were talking. I'm like, I should probably pick what beers I'm going to drink, and I'm in my fridge, and the only beers that I have in this fridge are all double digits, with the exception of like a Pale to the People or a Hot Bullet, which is still a 9.5. And I'm looking at the bottom where all my good stuff is at, and I'm like, I think I'm just gonna send it.
Yeah, just do it.
Yep.
You never know. The world might end soon.
That's right.
Beer already.
It's not gonna drink itself.
Yeah.
So, All right, moving on into some tech news. Steve, did you know that Windows actually has a Linux kernel you can download?
Yes, I remember reading that they were going to do that. I didn't know that it was actually out right now.
I've been actually playing around with it for about the last year, more at work than I do here. Basically, it has a Debian kernel built in, and so you can run full packages from the apt repository, and basically you can just call up a Linux kernel inside of your Windows kernel and run native commands and native applications without recompiling, without doing anything fancy.
This makes sense because they're really pushing their .NET Core, which is their Visual Studio's next big language, which is basically you have one code base. You can compile it for Windows, you can compile it for Linux, you can compile it for Mac. It'll run on anything basically. So having a built-in Linux kernel like that, especially for testing, makes sense.
Yeah. It was about a year and a half ago, wasn't it, that Microsoft actually released .NET for Linux, a native download for Linux. So all you .NET developers, you can actually develop on a single platform now, compile it once, and then release it on multiple OS kernels,
Yes.
Which was a very, very cool implementation. And Microsoft did that free of charge. It's a free development environment. They also released PowerShell for Linux, and so you can run PowerShell natively inside of Linux, and now you can run Linux commands natively inside of Windows.
Oh, even nicer.
Right. And so I've been of the opinion that I think the Windows kernel is going to die in the next 5 years. I do not believe Windows will be Windows based inside of 5 years.
I don't know. All my well, I don't know if I'm gonna have to be able to use the old Windows pinball game.
Right.
They better.
Well,
make
the thing is, your Windows code will be runnable on Linux inside of Windows.
Yes, they'll probably just reverse it.
Right. Now, obviously, Microsoft has the source code for Windows going back as far as they want to go, but it's my opinion that Microsoft may actually replace the Windows kernel with a Linux kernel. That's my running theory on this whole development.
Could.
But on the more macro scale, I guess, Windows built-in Linux kernel will be available for any version of Windows very soon. Up until recently, you've had to have either be on the Insider track or you've had to have Windows 10 Pro or Windows 10 Enterprise to be able to download it. Now, anyone can download it. It will be available, what was the month? It was sometime in April, I thought it said. Oh, when Windows 10 2004 arrives. So when the April update of Windows arrives, you'll be able to download the Linux kernel. Yeah, so sometime in April or June if Microsoft is holding to their current track record of major update releases.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to install Linux on my Windows 98 machine then.
Yep.
Put the Windows Linux kernel.
Yeah, and some people in the comments are already saying, die Windows, die, open source Windows. Now, here's the deal. Windows itself will not be open source. It will it'll simply be running an open source kernel.
Yeah.
That's a very, very strong difference because it's an open source kernel with closed source software running on top of it. Red Hat does something very similar. It's running a Linux kernel with closed source software on top of it. And there's a number of different distros and developments that do that. But the fact that it's running a Linux kernel underneath means that the heart of the OS is still technically open source, and you can run any Linux modules that you want to run on it. It's just Windows will still have closed source packages for Windows Explorer and this and that.
Everything bolted onto the top of it's going to be not open source.
Exactly. It's still going to be proprietary Microsoft closed source stuff, but at the heart of the kernel, if we can get open source to that, there's going to be, number one, better security for the kernel, because right now the Windows kernel security is, it's internally tested, which means it's not tested very well.
Yeah.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes with that. Blake Thomas says XFAT is being integrated into the Linux kernel soon. And yeah, you can already get XFAT on Linux. And my hope is that we're going to go from this NTFS and XFAT, which XFAT is kind of an open standard, but really not. Because the FAT file system is still a Microsoft-based file system. It's just not the NT file system. Right. But XFAT, they've allowed pretty much anyone who wants to use it. You can use it natively on Apple, on OS X. But I'm really hoping for, in the next 5 years, a lot of consolidation with a lot of different technologies. Like file systems, who wants to deal with ext4 versus XFAT versus NTFS when dealing with client PCs anymore?
XFAT is technically owned by Weight Watchers.
Steve, it's terrible.
Yeah, that was bad.
Red Hat is 100% open source, just not their logos and trademark. Right. That is true. You just pay for the support. A lot like FreeNAS with FreeBSD. Or TrueNAS now, I guess, is so TrueNAS Core, or what used to be FreeNAS, is 100% open source, and then there's also closed source packages that run inside of that that are enterprise only. And I know like a lot of Linux-based software is open source. You pay for support, and there might be closed source modules within that. Jeff, maybe they expand REFS. They very well could. But I think probably XFAT is going to be, my hunch is that's where they consolidate to.
Yeah.
It is a little bit more ubiquitous. It's easier to work with. A lot of different OSs handle it a lot better.
Yeah, they already use it that way, yeah.
Right. So I would imagine if they're going to consolidate on something, they consolidate on XFAT.
Yeah, it definitely makes transferring files from one type of OS to another a lot easier. It's...
all of my external drives I format with XFAT anymore because I can use it on any device I want to. Then I can plug it into a Linux machine or a Mac machine or a Windows machine, and all of them can read and write. And that's the only file system you can do that with. Windows on ZFS, maybe? Ooh, that would be interesting. Windows install on ZFS, Steve?
Maybe? I don't know.
I don't know why I hadn't thought of it until then, but you just got me really excited, Steve, from the comments.
Is there any rumor that is that?
Someone just said Windows on ZFS, maybe.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Honestly, if it's running a Linux kernel, there's nothing stopping you from doing ZFS.
I know.
ZFS is integrated into the Debian kernel, which seems to be where Microsoft tends to be landing.
I don't know. ZFS and Windows Server. I don't know. Okay. No.
I love ZFS. ZFS is what I would love to go with.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I know you love it.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I am a ZFS junkie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you didn't know, the Windows kernel, or the Linux kernel, is coming to Windows natively. It has been available for, I think, almost 2 years now, but only in specific versions of Windows. Now it's going to be available for everyone as of the 2004 Windows update.
2004 Windows update, yeah.
Due in April to be delivered by July. Let's see. What else we got? System 76, my favorite open source computer company. They have been doing a lot of OEM rebrand stuff for a while as far as their laptops go. And what I mean by that is they've been buying OEM laptops and rebranding them as System 76, but certifying the hardware to be open source, or at least open source compatible. And so they've been buying laptops from Gigabyte and EVGA and a couple of other OEMs. Asus comes to mind. And rebranding them as System 76, but making sure they install components that they know are certified to run on Linux. And the problem is, to this point, all of that has been Intel-based hardware. Well, System 76 has been wanting for quite a while to start producing their own in-house laptops. And one of the rumors that's coming out of that is System 76 is beginning to ship their all-new Lemur Pro laptop and it will be their most open source laptop yet, but still based on Intel. However, there's a rumor that they're also creating a second version of this laptop that will be an AMD-based chipset on AMD Ryzen.
That'd be nice.
And it will be pretty much one of the first laptops that runs modern Ryzen hardware that can natively run Linux very, very well. I know there's some out there. There's a couple Dells that do pretty well, but Linux compatibility on the AMD side of things has been a little bit hit or miss on the laptop side of things, especially when it comes to things like the power saving modes and trim support for SSDs and things like that. There have been some things missing out of the feature set inside of Linux if you go with an AMD-based chipset. So I'm curious to see if they finally solved some of those things, because no one wants to buy a laptop that's supposed to get 12 hours of battery, install Linux, and get 4. You know? And that's pretty much what the experience has been for a while.
I'm starting my second beer.
Ooh, got the goblet out.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So this is the It's Too Foggy.
Mm-hmm.
It's too foggy.
It's too foggy, eh?
It's too foggy, eh?
Techno Tim, I'm so over NTFS. Yeah, I hear ya.
It's been around for so long. And they haven't changed it since what, the 90s?
It came out with Windows
Windows NT.
NT, yeah.
Yeah, it's because it was a new technology file systems in NT.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, NT came out in the 90s, so...
It was NT 4.5. Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. I remember now.
No.
That's been a while.
I know.
Yeah. I know the first consumer OS with it done was Windows XP. You could get it on Windows 2000, but 2000 really wasn't a consumer OS, even though some people ran it like that.
It was still 2000 server is what they called it.
Right. Yeah, it was 2000 server or 2000 workstation. But not a lot of people ran Windows 2000 because it ran on the NT kernel, which a lot of the games for that day didn't like that and could only run on Windows 98 based kernel, which was still a DOS based kernel.
Yes.
With a Windows shell on top of it.
Yes. Yeah. They didn't change that for till XP, I think. Yeah.
Nope. No. XP was the Windows NT 4 was the first to run without a DOS shell underneath.
Oh, that's you're right. You're right. But it's the first one that.
It's first consumer OS. Right.
Consumer one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because no one ran NT and then played games on it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this is delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, holy crap, this is really good. It tastes like lemony orange juice. It's just with a little bit of hoppiness in there.
Well, you said the lemon drop hops in that one.
Yeah, it's got the lemon drop because
3
beers ago that I made an IPA with lemon drop hops in there. It was really good. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh gosh, no, that's good. Oh god dang. I'm glad I'm drinking it from the skull of my enemy.
Me, I'm drinking it from a stemless wine glass.
Yeah. That's not as fancy.
Not quite as fancy.
Usually the proper drinking glass for the hazy IPA is the skull of your enemy.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody knew that, but it's true. Look at that.
Well, you use it as the wash to get rid of the grime that's left from the brains and whatnot, because they're so acidic. They just eat everything away.
If there's a little brain stem still in there, it kind of
just eats right through it.
That's
In fact, I'm going to polish this one off real quick and move on to my next. Pale to the people, like I said, not complex, but just solid.
Yeah,
just solid. All right. So I'm going to move on to my the Abyss. Oh, crap. I don't have my knife on me. I think I will use a PCI cover to cut the wax seal off here.
That'll work. Oh, yeah, the wax seal.
Actually, that works quite well.
That's John Wynn said he played hours of gaming on Windows 2K server, which I'm sure it worked.
There were some games that ran on Windows 2000.
Yeah.
And it was more common then than it was like on NT4. NT4, you couldn't play anything from the Windows 95 days. It was literally impossible.
It's just that most people didn't.
Right. Yeah, it was two different code sets.
Yeah.
By Windows 2000, they were starting to consolidate their code sets because Windows XP was in development. And so that's why you started to get some backwards compatibility with DOS-based kernels. A little history lesson with craft computing.
Yeah, actually, I think NT was actually supposed to be developed with cooperation of crap. What was it? Wave OS? Wait, who was that? I can't remember back then. But they end up splitting.
Wave OS. I don't know who you're talking about there.
Wave oh my gosh, I can't remember what it was. It was just such a blip in the radar. They because they came out with the OS. Let me see. I want to look this up. NT development history, Windows NT.
Oh my God, Steve.
I know it. I've had it before.
Oh, you haven't had this one. This one's not rum barrel aged. This one's bourbon, wine, and New American oak aged. Oh my God.
I can smell it from here.
Yeah. Let's get that one on camera. Not quite as thick as I was thinking. I mean, it's thick.
Usually it is pretty thick.
Yeah. It's thick, but it's not chunky.
No one likes a chunky style beer.
Right.
It was. Oh yeah, that's right. The third version of the operating system was jointly by Microsoft and IBM. It was IBM's OS. What was the old IBM OS?
I'm not listening, Steve.
Oh yeah. Warp OS. There you go. Warp OS 2. There you go.
Oh, OS2 Warp. Yeah.
OS2 Warp. Yes, that's right. That's the one I was thinking of. OS2 Warp. They did it in conjunction with them, and then they split, and then they put OS2 Warp out there, and it didn't go anywhere. And of course, Microsoft took off.
Steve, let me just say I win.
I don't know. You haven't had this one. I just had a nice, dark, thick bourbon barrel-aged beer. This one is very, very orangey, lemony. I guarantee you this IPA was better than your IPA.
Chocolate, coffee, peanut,
licorice too. There's
licorice, and a little bit of wine.
It's why I love Abyss, because it's got that black licorice flavor in it. I like
Yes.
any beer that has that black licorice flavor to it.
Yeah, it's just subtle enough where it's like it's there, and even if you're not a black licorice fan, you may enjoy this because the roast really does take the predominance of the flavor, but it's a really good roast.
Yeah, I know it is very good.
John says he's going to drink 4 different years of Parabola to piss off craft computing.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Suck it, Jeff. Oh, I'm going to suck it. Oh, this is good.
Let's go suck it down.
Actually, I'm going to take my time with this one.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to. It's going to have to last the rest of the show.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, we better get on with the news, otherwise we'll never get to it.
You're never going to get to the end.
Yep. All right.
Well, you basically have an hour to finish it, because we're at 8:53, so an hour and 7 minutes.
That's right. The comments are out of control. All right. So Microsoft announced today that there are 2 0-day RCE flaws that affect all versions of Windows. And when I mean when I say all versions, I mean all versions of Windows.
This is bad news, especially for the people who are still hanging on to their Windows 7 desktops, because they passed end of life like 2 months ago, right?
Yep.
Beginning of this year.
Yeah,
so
Windows 7 and Windows 8.0 are both dead.
And so this isn't going to get patched for the people who are still running those.
Nope.
So they're going to be vulnerable.
Exactly. John, no, I did stand up at one point. You know I'm wearing pants, so there's at least that.
You may be wearing pants, but this is the first shoeless Talking Heads I've been on.
Actually, I'm just socks as well. Actually, that doesn't help with the whole not wearing pants thing, does it? Anyway.
Well, actually, technically, John's right. You're not wearing pants. You're wearing shorts.
I'm wearing shorts. Right.
Shorts.
Anyway, what this is a remote code execution flaw, and it's actually a double flaw. It's a flaw in the way that Microsoft, at the base of Windows, is handling Adobe PostScript, or Adobe Type Manager, excuse me. So, yeah, everything from about Windows, I think it's Windows Vista forward, are vulnerable to this. Windows Server 2008, which is the Vista core and forward. Basically what it is you can embed the font into something, a document, a PDF, a web page, something like that, and use a flaw in the way Windows kernel handles the font to remotely execute malicious code on the target device. This is a pretty serious flaw.
Well, I think embedded fonts within like PDFs and stuff like that get auto installed when you open them up. Yes, yeah, there's a security flaw right there.
Which is basically what they're using. They're using the auto installer library from the Adobe Type Manager to push code inside of the installer package. Just missing an eyebrow waggle. You want the people's eyebrow? Is that what we're missing? I don't know. Yeah. It's definitely not a good thing whenever you hear remote code execution. It's even a worse thing when the font could just be in a random web page or PDF, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Especially since you use your browser to open the PDFs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's by default now that even in Windows, if you open a PDF, it automatically opens it in
Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, Edge, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now powered by Chrome.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It is.
Yep. Let's see. Looks like Trick Logic was answering all of my questions, but in the wrong Discord channel.
Oh, yeah, he was in the wrong one.
Yeah. There's some good tech info in 10 forward now. That's funny.
Yeah.
I will have to check that out after the show. Steve says no more legs. What the hell did I just come into here for? Yep. Hackers, have we tried hacking in through the font yet? Good lord, they're into Arial bold.
I didn't. What font do hackers prefer? Impact. I think they like Impact.
Terminal is what I prefer.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Terminal. Yeah. I think Impact would probably do.
No, Wingdings. I want Wingdings. Yeah.
Actually, I use Wingdings quite a bit. when I'm too lazy to like find an icon or something to put in like a form I'm building, I'll just fuck it, just use Wingdings. Wingdings just. Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The script kiddies use Comic Sans.
Yeah. Who is this 4chan?
Yeah.
Leaving malicious messages in Comic Sans all over the place. And this is why I use Mac. Oh, come on now, bro. Get off your pedestal.
Actually, it's kind of funny. My old boss, he always sent emails in Comic Sans for some reason. He loved it.
I have a couple
I don't know why.
I have a couple of people like that.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's the worst font ever invented by man. It's horrible.
If you use Comic Sans, you should get hacked. I kind of agree, Sybil.
Yeah,
I kind of agree.
So.
Serif fonts are the best. I kind of agree with that. I do like serif fonts.
Yeah, Keurig new. That's a fixed width font.
Yep.
So your spacing is always going to be spaced out correctly no matter what. That's why Keurig new is great.
Yep.
And a Keurig style font.
None of that, 4-pixel, 9-pixel crap.
Yeah, I know. It's so hard to gauge distance when you're like a variable length.
Yeah. What really sucks is when I'm trying to put together benchmark slides for my videos. Is I like to use Star Trek inspired fonts. There we go. So my official Craft Computing logo is I believe one of the Voyager fonts.
Okay.
And then my latest videos have all been the motion picture, Star Trek motion picture font.
Star Trek motion picture font, yeah.
Yeah. Those are not TrueType fonts. Those are not evenly spaced
No,
fonts.
no, they're not evenly spaced fonts. Yes, of
And
course.
so trying to get those evenly spaced inside of a Photoshop document
Very
doesn't
hard.
go well. It doesn't go well. Papyrus is the worst font.
Yeah, I don't know. Papyrus is okay when you want to like, print out your own like pirate map or something. Yeah, that'd be okay.
Have you seen the SNL Papyrus sketch?
I didn't. You cut out there. I didn't hear what that said.
Have you seen the SNL Papyrus sketch?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh God, it's good. You got to look that one up.
I'll have to look that up.
It's he's obsessed with the Papyrus font and more specifically the art director for Avatar the movie.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he goes, they used papyrus for the font. It's like, how lazy can you be? You just, kind of added like a little shadow and made it white, and boom, $10 billion picture and whatnot. And so he's going around like a crazy man trying to explain to everyone how he just used papyrus. And he's like stalking the guy in his house, and it's good. You got to go watch it.
That reminds like back in the early days of the internet, they had all these people who were like, "Oh, I'm an artist. Come check out my web space. I got all these art pictures," and all it was like a crappy picture that they put the default Photoshop filter over.
Yes.
They like used pixelate or oil painting or whatever like that, and they're like, this is my art. Check this out.
No, I've seen quite a number of those very recently, in fact.
Oh, really? Still,
Some people still do that. They put an Instagram filter on something and think they're the next.
It's like, let's go put the stained glass filter on. That's good. It's art.
Yep. Yeah, they go to Yellowstone with their iPhone and they put an Instagram filter on it and they think they're Ansel Adams or something. It's like, come on, bro.
Yeah, that's not working.
Yeah. I'm an influencer. Can I stay for free in Yellowstone? You could really use my advertisement for your state park.
Yeah, you can stay for free in Yellowstone. Just like Old Faithful, right on top of that. Just stay there for a while.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out the hot springs while you're there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. No pedestal. I know next month will be Mac's turn. Well, finally someone gets it, because that's the biggest thing. Is actually in recent years, Macs have actually been more vulnerable to sideload attacks, as far as like browser injections and things like that. So as long as you lock down your operating system, you're pretty good. But by default, Mac OS is pretty wide open. So it's always funny when they say, "Well, I have a Mac, so I never get viruses." Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I don't get viruses, man.
Yeah. Hi, I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. Still love those commercials. Anyway, moving right along. For the second time in, I think, as many months, it feels like. I think this has been a little bit longer, but not much. HP decides it really hates your data that you store in your SSDs. So if you bought an HP server and you happen to buy an HP branded SSD from them at the same time installed in said server, you're going to lose everything that you put on there. And
After
the problem,
4,000?
and the problem is something that happens with HP a lot is they use hardware where they should use software. And what I mean by that is there's usually a rollover in the number of bits that they're counting, and they max out those bits without thinking of the consequences of that. So HP has some servers or some switches that they built in conjunction with Aruba. They have the 5130 series of switches. Now they're designed to be what's called an edge switch, which is an end client switch. It's a 48 port switch, so 48 10 gigabit ports, with 4 10 gigabit ports on it. And so it's meant to be, 10 gigabit in, a couple of 10 gig clients, and then 48 ports that go out, and it's meant to be like a distribution switch. And so you send out to either 48 clients or, it could be an entire building switch. Because you can send out to probably thousands of clients on that single switch and route all that traffic pretty easily. The problem is they store all of the MAC address information literally on hardware memory chips. And each MAC address gets its own, and I know I'm going on a rant here, but this is something I've had to deal with recently and it just ticks me off. Each MAC address is stored on physical memory and gets a physical address within the switch. The problem with that is on a single 48-port switch, you have a maximum MAC address table of 1,024 addresses, because that's as much as the memory will hold. So you have a switch which has, I think, 2 gigs of RAM and a pretty good processor and a pretty good amount of ROM on board, but every time you build a MAC address table, it's building it to a physical memory chip, and that switch maxes out at 1,000 clients. Or you can get the high version, which doubles the physical memory and maxes out at 2,000 clients. Now, if you're an edge switch, and let's say you're an edge switch with PoE, which all of them have PoE, and you hook like 48 wireless access points to that, how long will it take to max out 1,000 MAC addresses? Because you have to address the switch itself, then the 48 PoE wireless access points that you're connecting to, plus anything upstream that you're connecting to on your 10 gig switch, plus any client that connects gets its own unique MAC address registered in there. So let's say you have like 30 clients per wireless access point, which is not outside of the realm of possibility. You filled that switch. You filled that switch. You can't do anything more. For a $4,000 switch.
Wow, HP.
Right. And the reason I bring that up is this is a lot of the same. So HP warns of a firmware bug inside of their enterprise SSDs that will kill the drive after 40,000 hours. More specifically, is it will kill the drive after 32,768 hours. And that might seem like an oddly specific number. That's actually the 16-bit rollover number.
Oh, because they only have the... Okay, so it's a software bug. It's not necessarily the hardware dies.
Right. So you know the 32-bit integer number, which is 65,535.
Yep.
Divide that by 2.
There you go.
32,768.
Yep, there it is, right there. That's why.
16-bit integer. They're storing their runtime hours as a 16-bit integer.
A 16-bit integer, and it
possibly
dies.
On some physical hardware. Yeah. So they just have a bit counter that adds it up. And when it runs out of 16-bit address space, it doesn't know what to do anymore.
Doesn't know what to do anymore. Yep. It's just like can't roll over memory. We're overriding memory at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. That's the thing. I could forgive that type of stuff like back in the day where memory and things were kind of at a premium.
Right.
Not anymore. I mean, just use a 32-bit int. What's the big deal?
Not even that. Can you fathom using this? I mean, even a 32-bit integer, you're talking about 65,000 hours of runtime. You know, so it's not like you have infinitely more space. You get 5 years instead of 3.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but the problem is you're counting runtime as a bit.
Yes.
And we've known about that since the 2038 Unix clock issue.
Yep.
So why in the world, HP, are you still relying on literally bit counting to count your hour runtime on your drives? And why are you assigning it to physical hard drive space or only using 16-bit integers for that?
That makes no sense.
Why are you not storing a plain text value? That's what doesn't make sense to me.
That doesn't make any sense. Maybe backwards compatibility with some older OSs? I have no idea.
Right. No, this is for their internal monitoring. This is the smart reporting for the drives. It's HP's own SNMP data.
Is there a smart standard for those numbers? Is there supposed to be like a document that says this is the standard?
There is a standard as far as what the drive needs to report to smart, but there's not a standard as far as how the drive needs to keep track of it.
Yeah.
And so as long as it spits out the right number, it's fine. But the problem is HP should have known that there was a max of 32,000 possible hours this thing could run with a 16-bit integer. And they didn't. And that's really concerning because this is far from the first time HP has ran into integer overflows.
Maybe they outsourced it.
I don't know. But it seems to be a trend with HP lately. And it's really, really aggravating and confusing why this is a trend. And I know I'm coming at this from like my enterprise brain. Because I work with switches and servers day in, day out.
Long. Yeah.
And specifically, I've worked with HP servers for, I think, 8 of my 10 years. We finally, I don't have to deal with HP servers anymore, but we're still mostly HP rolled out on switches, rolling over to Aruba and Comware and new Aruba OS and stuff like that. It's all HP. It's all, a deviant of the old ProLiant stuff.
Right.
But, yeah, why does this continue to be an issue? If someone from
I have no
HP
idea.
is watching, please let me know why you're still using integer counters for runtime, and why you're still using essentially integer counters for your MAC address tables.
Yeah.
Oy.
I don't know why.
So the affected drives are definitely not small drives. They're the HPE 800 gig, 12 gig SAS dual port enterprise SSD. The HP does have a firmware fix, but they only released it in on 320, and that was when they disclosed the issue. They're like, oh, by the way, your drives are going to die. Here's the firmware to fix it.
Hurry up and do it.
All right.
But that's, I mean, the good news is that these aren't affecting any of the commercial drives. I mean, these are all enterprise drives.
Right. These are not drives that would be in an HP laptop. These are all 12 gig dual port SAS SSDs, well beyond the scope of what anyone here would be buying for a consumer device. Right. But these are not cheap drives. I mean, HP charges thousands of dollars for these drives.
I know. You would think there would be a little better Q&A on these type of drives.
Right. So if anyone's curious, 40,000 hours translates into 4 years, 206 days, 16 hours. Which is only half a year shorter than the extended warranty period for some of them. So unless you ran it 24/7 for 4.5 years, you're not going to get your drives replaced at the end of this. You know, if you had a 6-month outage, or took you 6 months to deploy it, sorry, bucko.
Yeah.
Yep. HP lifetime warranty on switches. That's true for anything that says ProLiant. It is not true for anything that says Aruba or is Comware based that they purchased from Aruba. It is only for their ProLiant line of switches. So keep that in mind, HP fans. So I have definitely taken advantage.
Is there actual HP fans? I don't. Is that a thing?
I
think there's just HP necessary
I'm hurt.
evils.
I'm hurt.
Are you an HP fan?
I cut my networking teeth on HP ProLiant, and
well, I mean, I understand that because it's a necessary thing that they're there.
Right.
I mean, like whether people are actually fans of them.
I'm actually a fan of HP networking in general.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because all of their nomenclature that they use is all industry standard stuff. If I talk to a Cisco networking guy and I ask him what's an access port and what is a trunk port and what is a VLAN and what is this and what is that, he's going to give me wildly different answers than Wikipedia. And that's because Cisco uses their own nomenclature for common network standards. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to communicate. Now, there's an old adage, no one's ever been fired for buying Cisco. And that's absolutely right, because their gear is fantastic. The problem is they kill you in license fees.
Right.
And they sell you the hardware, and then they sell you the license to use said hardware.
Right.
And they cut you down based on the feature set of what the hardware is capable of versus what you should actually be getting out of your $8,000 Switch, let's say. Yeah. And so that to me just rubs me the wrong way. If I buy the hardware, I should be able to use whatever's utilized for it. I understand paying for support, 100%. Paying for warranty, paying for tech support, paying for emergency, roadside service, whatever. But when I'm paying to literally use the hardware that I physically bought from you.
I know. I bought you the hardware, and now I have to license to use the hardware.
I've already paid
Seems
for
ridiculous.
it.
Yes,
right.
I know.
And Cisco uses the same thing with their Meraki access points. And so they'll sell you the access point for $700, and then you have to pay $150 per access point to license it every year. You can buy a Cisco phone for $300, and then you have to pay $40 a year to license the software on that phone to be able to use it. Yeah. And so what they do is they sell you the hardware at what's actually not even a reasonable cost anymore with game changers like Unify and HP, and you kind of go down that list. But then they hook you in with having to pay the license fee to continue using the hardware.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah.
Take you down that road. They get you sucked into their ecosystem, and then you have to pay licensing fees, or else you're gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Skull says he was a big fan of Aruba networking prior to the HPE buyout. I get that as well. I was a big Aruba fan, especially of their Comware stuff. HP seems to be doing some stuff really well with them, and they're kind of consolidating a lot of their ProLiant line into the Aruba hardware. And I think they're going to end up being better on the other side, but that kind of a transition takes years. And it's only been, 3 years since that happened, I think? Because they actually started rebranding some HP ProLiant switches as HP Aruba switches. I know the 2900 series was one that got rebranded, as well as some of the what's the 5208s, the large blade chassis and whatnot. Those also got rebranded. So yeah, it's interesting times. But hey Jeff, I want to come and raid your bar. I'm out of booze. No.
Too bad. It's social distancing, man.
Yeah.
Even.
Sorry, bro. I would, but social distancing, bro.
Yeah. I can't raid his liquor cabinet. Nobody else can. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Friends and family form an orderly line with no less than 6 feet between you.
Yeah.
That puts you outside of my door, which will be locked.
That's right.
Seriously, if you want to see how close the liquor cabinet is to the door, there's the door, there's the liquor cabinet. So
yeah. You can literally like stick your hand and kind of reach around and grab a bottle.
Yeah. By the way, how awesomely wide is this lens?
I couldn't hear what you said. It cut out.
I said, by the way, how awesomely wide is this lens?
Again, it just I don't know why it's cutting out all the way time. Just suddenly.
I don't know. How awesomely wide is this lens? Is that better?
Oh, no, it's yeah. Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Because
I'm not that far away from the lens. Like,
yeah. There we go.
That's a little bit. So, I actually like the webcam style. Well, thank you. Yeah, you'll be seeing it more over the next couple of weeks. KC says Micritic. Yeah, Micritic's another one that's coming out with a lot of really, really killer, industry killer products. In fact, eventually we're going to do a tour of my home server rack that I've got now, and it's actually got a Micritic switch at the top of the rack with 4 10 gig ports and 24 PoE gigabit ports. And it was $320, and I think it's like $500 for their 48 port version, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Dual power supply on it, 24 gig ports, 4 10 gig ports. What more do you want on a home networking switch or a small business switch? So, Jeff with the digital lock sitting in his basement, you know it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't lock you out; it locks you in.
Yeah, that's the nice thing.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we spent enough time talking about HP. Let's talk about the little bit of sad news that Computext has been rescheduled.
I would say mixed.
Mixed news, yeah.
It's sad, but it's better than canceling, right?
Yeah. So Computext has been officially rescheduled to mid-September. What is it, September 21st or something like that? 21st, 22nd, 23rd?
Yes.
Yeah. They normally take place at the beginning of June or late May. They will be taking place late September now.
Yes.
So thank you, Computext. I want to say first and foremost for, number one, taking this whole thing seriously. They've been strangely quiet on the whole outbreak and, scheduling kind of thing. Also this week, the International Olympic Committee announced that the Summer Games will be postponed until 2021. They are postponing a full 12 months.
Yes.
Which I do really appreciate them as well.
Yeah.
For doing that. But Computext, obviously the biggest consumer electronics expo of the year, especially when it comes to the PC space. September 28th through 30th. I was a week
28th,
early.
yeah, 28th. Okay.
Yeah.
Close.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's got
so they're cutting it down from 5 days to 3. I'm assuming there's going to be fewer vendors. I'm assuming there's going to be less planning that goes into it because it's a yearly event. It's a big deal every year at Taipei 101. I don't think I'm going to be able to go still this year, but I will be looking forward to going next year. But I am curious to see who reschedules and who just ends up doing announcements kind of on their own, because there were a number of rumored announcements that were supposed to be happening at Computext this year, possibly Ryzen 3 happening at Computext this year. as Zen 2 obviously was announced at Computext this last year. Intel 10 nanometer very much on the minds of people. Maybe an announcement of 7 nanometer on the way, although we all know that's going to take 2-3 years for Intel to actually finally develop something. Possibly a 3000 series, Ampere announcement at Computext. Although I had heard GDC is likely the more likely event for that to happen at. Yeah, Computext officially rescheduled until late September, which I have to say is probably a much better time to be in Taipei.
Yeah, no, it is. It definitely is. And they'll probably have, like, instead of metal detectors, they'll have like a thing you walk through which just sprays disinfectant on you.
Yeah.
You just walk through and you just like.
So hey Steve, sorry to interrupt you there, but
the webcam boop. There you go.
Mother.
There you go. Webcam boop, much more sanitary. Much more sanitary.
That's what we call a social distancing boop.
Yeah, there we go. Now I do have to wipe off my camera.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
I'll touch my face all I want, but I'm not going to touch my camera.
Yeah, I can touch my face. I'm home.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I can touch my face now.
Yep. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how tech companies kind of restructure their announcements that are going to be coming out. Because there were a number of really big rumored announcements happening at Computext. Like I said, probably first and foremost, Zen 3 architecture was probably going to be introduced at Computext this year. Will AMD hold a San Francisco event? Will they just hold a web demo? I can't imagine them inviting a lot of media out at the end of May, because that's just not going to happen. So who knows? It's a weird time. It's a weird time to be a tech journalist. It's a weird time to be, honestly, alive.
No, I mean, all these kind of conferences that a lot of industries. I mean, there's a conference for every single facet of every single industry out there. I mean,
Yes.
You might not know about it, but they're there.
Right.
Obviously, there's more popular ones like for the gaming industry and tech industries. Everybody knows those. But I mean, there's literally a road paving type conference for things like that. All those things are suffering right now because you cannot have big giant gatherings right now. So all these things are being canceled. All these things are being postponed, are pushed off. So yeah, it's definitely interesting times for those type of events. As Jeff coughs.
It was that boop, man. You got to.
Yeah.
No, seasonal allergies. You may not know it from watching my videos, but my nose runs like 9 months of the year, regardless of what allergy medication I'm on or anything like that. And so pretty much from like October through around May or June, my nose is just constantly running, either in the front when I'm awake or in the back when I'm asleep. And so during the winter and springtime especially, I am constantly clearing my throat.
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones that has no allergy problems.
Yeah.
The amount of cocaine I've probably done. I don't know. I lived through the 80s, so
You just burned off any of the possible receptors.
Yeah. I mean, I was a kid in the 80s, but cocaine was just everywhere back then.
Right.
If you've watched any movies.
You can get it at 7-Eleven for God's
sake. Yeah,
sakes.
of course. It was everywhere. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
Had lines up there for the kids, just like.
It was a different time, man.
It was a different time.
Different time.
It was everywhere.
So halfway through, how's your hazy there?
How's my what? I couldn't.
How's your hazy? Your beer?
It's still absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
It still has what I really appreciate about this is some of these hazy beers, they tend to have that acid burn when you get towards the end, especially when you're doing like a big 16 ouncer.
Mm-hmm.
This has none of that. It's still retaining its citrusy, orangey, lemony flavor to it. I'm getting close to the end, almost gone there, and I've enjoyed it from beginning to end. So this is an excellent beer. If anyone can find, it's too foggy. I highly recommend it if you can find it.
Sorry, just had to respond to something real quick.
Oh yes, I just saw that too.
Yep. So yeah, just responded to one of our Discord chats. If you have not joined the Discord yet, seriously think about joining the Discord. It is a freaking awesome community.
It is very good.
Yeah, link down in the video description to my Patreon. And honestly, every donation really does help keep the lights on around here more than you know. All the special projects, all the weird and extravagant and esoteric stuff that you like seeing out of craft computing, like the server builds and the cloud computing and the Chinese motherboards, that all comes directly from the Patreon fund and directly from crowd suggestions. So if you like that kind of content, if you like the stuff that I do around here, seriously think about joining the Patreon. Minimum donation of $1 per month, although more is obviously very greatly appreciated. The bonus that you get is not early access to my videos, but you do get exclusive access to my Discord server, where you get to chat with myself, you get to chat with Steve, John, Rhett on the show. Pretty much one of us is up 24 hours a day, especially this time of year.
Oh yeah, I'm usually up late sometimes. I mean, I was up late last night. Probably not this night, because I'm probably gonna crash after this. I'm pretty dang tired, actually.
I had to go into work for I think like 4.5 or 5 hours worth of meetings today, from the company shutdown and talking about how we're gonna remotely support employees who need to work and how we're gonna what's the pay differential and whatnot, because my company, to their credit, is paying all their employees to stay home, but after a couple weeks they're going to start having people work remotely again, the ones that are essential, and the essential ones are going to be paid for working and the non-essential ones are going to be paid to stay home. So what are we going to give the essential employees that we're not giving the non-essential employees, and that kind of thing. So it's like, there's so much to think about there. I mean, I've got a tech staff that I run of 5 people, and my techs went from a workload of like 3,500 clients down to like 70.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay them for 8 hours to stay home 99% of the time, so it's just all the ins and outs of a large organization. You got to figure out all of that. And every other company is going through the same thing, if they're paying their employees or if they're laying everyone off and kind of going off the grid for a couple of months until they can rehire back and reopen the offices. It's just kind of the world we live in right now. Yeah. But all those things you don't think about that might be an issue in a couple of weeks, of like, oh, let's just pay everyone. Oh, well, we also have to keep the business running, so we need to pay these 30 people to work. Well, if you're paying everyone to stay home, why are these 30 people only going to get their base pay when Joe Schmo is also getting his base pay to sit in his underwear and drink, whiskey all day?
Right.
So it's like,
which
do
I
you
wish
pay him the
I
same
was
amount? Do you pay him less?
I've been working from home for like the last 2 years, so this has not been a big issue for me or anything like that. And but I do have some coworkers that they have an office and now they're working from home as well, and so they're like, we're on the same level playing field and everything like that. So it's pretty interesting. Our business still is taking a hit by the whole thing, but it's just more of a slowdown as opposed to like things are shutting down. When you're dealing with huge amounts of data and databases and web-based applications and stuff that are developed for these type of things, you can always work remote. And that's not a big deal. The real hard hit people, your restaurant owners and people hands-on workers, those are the worst ones that are hurt. Oh, Jeff's stopping again.
Sorry. But it's a weird situation for just about every business. I mean, if you want to talk a little bit of COVID impact on the state of Oregon, McMiniman's closed all of their locations and laid off 3,000 people. Yep. And that's just one organization. That's just one business. The state of Oregon alone was talking about 2.5 million people possibly filing for unemployment in the month of April. Yeah. That's half of our population.
Yeah, that's huge. That's
50%.
Yeah, that's a huge amount.
I mean, usually there's around 100 to 200,000 people on unemployment. We're talking about 2.5 million applying next month. Yeah. And
I definitely count myself as one of the lucky ones because yes, even though I do live in Oregon, I was already prepped for this.
Right.
I was born to do this. I was born to live my basement already. So
Yeah. Like I said, I'm being paid to stay home most of the time. I am an essential employee. I am their, the CTO of my organization, and so I do have responsibilities to uphold. But at the same time, my job responsibilities have been reduced about 90%, and I'm still retaining my full paycheck. So, I am thankful for that I am in this situation, that I did land in this, and I am able to still earn a paycheck and pay my mortgage and everything else. But there's a lot of people who aren't, can't pay rent, can't pay their mortgage, can't put food on the table, and it's an awful situation to be in, and it's going to be an awful situation for probably the next 3 to 6 months at the very least. It's not going to be a quick turnaround, especially as people keep going out. I noticed a lot fewer cars on the road today, but I also noticed a lot of people walking around in groups of like 15 and 20 people.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of counter to why you're not at work, or you're not at school, or you're not at this or that.
Yeah, I know. I was definitely surprised today because we live where I live. It's at the end of a dead end road,
right?
And you know where I live. It's like you're in Leslie. But I still saw cars driving up and down there. It's like there shouldn't be that many people driving up on my small, isolated tributary of a road. But I was still like seeing cars driving up and down there. It's like, why? Mm-hmm. Why are they there? What are they doing?
Right. Yeah. No, it's it's been a weird week at the very least.
Yeah, and it's only this because I think we have been on an official like stay-at-home official order from our governor starting Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is only day 3.
Yeah. We got it Monday at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Official stay-at-home. Yeah. So we closed our business 10 days ago.
Yeah.
14 days ago, something like that. But I worked a full schedule most of last week. I think I only ended up taking Friday off. And then this week I've been working from home just a couple hours a day here and there. And that'll probably continue for the foreseeable future, which is just a weird thought.
I know. It's interesting.
Yeah. So.
All right. I'm on my third one now.
Awesome. Ooh, the Elysian.
And then I'm going to use my Star Trek Spock Star Trek 3 glass.
Yes. So if anyone's curious what my camera looks like that Steve is seeing me on, so you're all seeing the 4K screen. Here's the webcam that Steve is seeing me on, so we can chat. I have a C920 mounted right next to my 4K camera, so Steve's getting the 1080-30 horrible dynamic range version of it, non-color corrected.
Yeah. No, Jeff, I'm looking at the YouTube channel, and his picture that's being streamed onto the YouTube channel is infinitely better than the camera I'm seeing right now.
and here's what Steve looks like in full screen, which I gotta say, Steve, it's not doing you any favors.
No, it's not. It's not good.
You'll see it in a second. Although I will say that's an awesome shirt.
Yes. No, I know. I love this shirt.
Friggin' love that shirt.
My wife got it for me. She thought it'd be so funny. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna go on Jeff's show. You'd love this shirt. People would love this shirt."
Nice.
She got that with the stream in mind.
Yeah. So my wife has started buying me similar shirts to like, oh, you should wear this on your show. So I got the Blue Screen of Death shirt from her.
Yeah.
I also got the Tea Earl Grey Hot shirt that I wore last week.
Yes, that's a good one.
She got me that one for my birthday. It's like, yes.
This
is why I married you. I love you so much. Yeah. So, but no, wherever you guys are at, wherever you're watching from, I hope you're safe. I hope you're taking this seriously. I hope you are, keeping your social distance, washing your hands, taking full precautions for you and your family. I've got a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old.
John Wynn is asking, was that a Burger King glass? Because that's where they all came from.
Right.
This was actually a rare Taco Bell glass.
Oh.
Taco Bell hardly put out glasses back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It was usually McDonald's or Burger King.
Yeah, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, I think were the three that really put out the collectible glasses.
This is one of the rare Taco Bell glass series.
You know, I'm still irritated that I never bought a pair of the Matrix glasses from Burger King.
Oh, really?
I would love some of like the Neo glasses, the Neo sunglasses from the Matrix.
That would be pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I always wanted a pair, and I never bought one.
People think that those old glasses that they released at McDonald's and stuff like that are collectibles.
Yeah.
They're not.
They're not.
They're everywhere. They're so ingrained into our culture right now that they're.
I will say the only glassware set that I really want that I don't have is the Dairy Queen Blazer collection.
Okay. So we were just cleaning out.
My brother-in-law has the entire set, and he's not even a Blazer
we found
fan.
An entire set in the attic at the farm that John just bought.
Okay.
My grandparents' old
Really?
farm. Yes. Upstairs was a stack of the old Blazers Dairy Queen glass sets.
I think John owes me for something. Probably trying all the domestics that he's brought on my show.
Probably.
Do you think I could weasel those out of him?
No, probably not. But I don't think they're worth much either. I mean, like
I know they're not worth much, but I want them.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
They've been sitting up in that attic for I don't know how long. They're probably coated with Ebola or something like that. I have no idea.
Well, those were like Scottie Pippen and Clyde the Glide and
yeah, they had yep.
Yeah,
all
Sabonis and
all the '90s Blazers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good old Sabas.
Yes.
Yeah. But I know they're not worth anything, but I want them. I want them so much.
The nostalgia behind them, that's kind of a great thing. You could typically find these like old McDonald's and Burger King and McDonald's glasses at any Goodwill. They're usually there.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's just like having them is like just having a piece of childhood,
Yep, like I said, I've always wanted them. I think I had a Scottie Pippen glass when I was younger. My parents bought me one of those. It was a weird time in Oregon, and I know we're kind of like, stretching this show. That's because I think we only have 2 articles left, so I've been kind of dragging it out a little bit. But I grew up down in the Springfield, Eugene area of Oregon, and there was this really weird dynamic that still exists today. Now, there's only 85 miles between Eugene and Portland. It's a straight stretch on I-5 with Corvallis, Salem, and Wilsonville kind of between them. Yeah. And that's really it. And then you're into Portland proper. The thing is, Portland likes to exist or likes to pretend that Eugene doesn't exist, and Eugene likes to pretend that Portland doesn't exist.
Yeah.
They
live in their own vacuum.
They live in their own bubble, and Salem lives in between the 2 bubbles and tries to interact with the other 2 cities, and no one wants to accept Salem either. It's this flippin' weird thing. Like the only time you ever hear about Salem is when there's a state Congress meeting, and some bill that Eugene wants passed or doesn't want passed is on the agenda.
Yeah, it is the state capital, so anything political,
right?
They'll mention Salem, but culturally,
right?
Nothing. It's null and void.
Cultural, festival, events, happenings, current events.
No one cares. It's either
no one knows anything about anyone. Yeah. The only time the Blazers were ever mentioned on the local news down in Eugene was when they were in the Western Conference Finals or the Finals.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
You watch ESPN, you get more local sports coverage than I got down in Eugene. Eugene was all about the Ducks and the Blazers.
Yeah.
Or Ducks and the Beavers, excuse me. But yeah, so it was this weird dynamic because growing up down there, it's like, the Blazers are like the one professional team. I kind of want to know how the basketball team's going, and I never got updates on it. Yeah. You might get a blurb of, the Blazers beat the Spurs 83-79 today. That was it. That was your update. You didn't get any highlights. You didn't get anything.
You get nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead I'd tune into Stuart Scott on SportsCenter, and I'd try to catch that. Anyway, let's see. We got 2 more. The cloud is full.
Yes. Well,
the cloud is full.
A cloud. One of the clouds.
One of the clouds.
One of the bigger clouds.
Yes, one of the clouds.
Yeah, one of the big storm clouds.
Yep. Definitely looks like a storm cloud right about now, especially as everyone's trying to do work from home and remotely. Is the Azure cloud. So Microsoft's cloud server service is allegedly running into capacity issues. So
That's crazy.
people who have bought like multi-terabyte allocations of server storage space are apparently running into out-of-disk limits when their disk that's allocated to them is only like 1/3 full. So there's a lot of interesting talk about this, but you can see this graph right here of Azure problems in the last 24 hours, and you can see this spike that kind of doesn't go away. You know, it's like it's normal to see like this kind of a thing for like an Amazon AWS instance, or little blips like this for things like that. But when you start to have sustained outages or bandwidth issues or upload problems, it starts to draw attention to your service as a whole. And it's kind of interesting that Azure's capacity is being brought into question here. So this is in the UK region, specifically, where Azure is reporting everything's green across the board. We are fully up and running. All of our data centers are in great working order, and we have more than enough capacity to support you. Users are reporting that might not be the case.
Yeah. I mean, I use Azure and work quite a bit, actually, because a lot of people do. I haven't heard any of these type of problems in the U.S., but I guess it's a UK-specific thing.
Yeah, this is a UK region-specific thing. So the Azure servers that are located within the UK region. Down Detector is showing numerous reports for the UK Azure servers today and yesterday. And like I said, the official Azure stats is everything is green across the board. There's no outage, there's no problems, there's no capacity issues, there's nothing that could possibly affect user performance. However, some people who are trying to allocate additional resources, or who have, like I said, paid for multiple terabytes or things like that,
That's actually based on the price point that Azure puts out. It's pretty expensive to do multiple terabytes with it.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Just like AWS, storage is expensive. CPU capacity is not, because not everyone's using 100% of the CPU all the time. But storage is a finite resource on a server grid. And so when you start running into storage issues, you go, well, is their data center full? Is there something going on? Yeah. So there's not a lot on this story, but there's definitely some smoke that's circling around the UK Azure deployment of, does Microsoft actually have enough to support what they're selling? And there's enough red flags right now that maybe it's not all roses that they are trying to sell to people.
Well, yeah, because they also tout Azure as being like the backbone to like their Xbox network and stuff like that. They use that for they say that we use Azure for like distributing games and for well, they were touting, I don't know how actual it was, but they had the distributed computing over the Azure network. They were supposed to say that the processing power that you can have an Xbox, and then it would send a signal out, and then it would do the processing, and it would send the signal back with a calculation. So it's distributed processing. I don't know if that ever came into fruition with anything. I doubt it. I don't know. But I do know that they use Azure as the background for a lot of their distribution, and it's basically the core of their Xbox Foundation.
Right. Microsoft has been developing their Azure network for probably about the last 10 years or so. Yeah. And they've been selling it to end users, I think, for the last 7. But it really has been the backbone of a lot of their web services. So you look at the Xbox Live network, you look at, back when Microsoft ran their own social service, which I don't remember what that was called. Their email service with Hotmail and Livemail and Outlook and all that kind of stuff, that all runs on Azure. Plus all the websites that they host, that all runs on Azure networking. And it's really interesting that all of a sudden one of their regions is running into potential capacity problems, and Microsoft is not acknowledging it. Because that's not something you just kind of brush under the rug. That's not an issue that you want to advertise that you have.
Yeah. And up to this point, to be honest, they've been performing quite flawlessly. I've used Azure for quite a bit of my development stuff, and this is anecdotal, obviously. This is my own limited experience with it. Never had a problem, and I thought it worked great. A lot of database spin ups, servers and stuff like that had to spin up for development reasons. Pretty seamless, pretty flawless, and I was actually impressed with the technology that they had. So the first time I started hearing about this kink of storage issues and just running out of resources altogether is kind of the first time I've heard of it. And you're right, it's a bit of a red flag and something that maybe localized to the UK. Maybe it's not that big over there. I don't know.
Right. Who knows? But yeah, it's certainly interesting. Certainly something we'll check in with next week. This could be just a blip in the radar. This could be a DNS issue. This could be a lot of different things where maybe not all their storage is recognizable at some point. But it's been going on for at least a couple of days, and Microsoft has continued to display all green across the board.
Well, they're probably using those HP SSD drives.
They hit 40,000 hours, and all of a sudden they're going, "Where did it
and
all go?
Oh, what the fuck happened to those drives? They're gone."
Steve, that's the second F-bomb you've dropped on my show tonight.
Oh, did I do another one earlier?
You did.
Oh, okay. I'm in my office. This is what I do.
One of them was before 9 o'clock even.
I know. This is normally what I do when I'm in my office. I'm in my element. I don't like cuss when I'm here, especially when I'm playing games. So it probably just flips.
When the camera's off, I swear like a sailor. I'm not going to deny
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just here. Oh, we did miss a
super chat. Yeah, Regan had a super chat.
Yeah.
I was going to get to that.
The only time I hear about Salem is witch trials. Yes.
Yeah, that's Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's the other side of the country. We had 0 witch trials here.
Yeah. So Oregon has a Portland and a Salem. And what's really interesting is up until recently, I didn't realize that when I said, "Oh, I'm from Portland," I didn't have to specify, or I had to specify Oregon with that.
Yeah.
Because when I went to major events, they're like, "Where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Portland." Portland means Oregon.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always known it to be known, no matter where I introduce myself. But all of a sudden at these events where I'm tech press, all of a sudden I have to clarify if I'm Portland, Oregon, or Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
Right. So we have a Portland and we have a Salem. Now, Salem is our state capital, and I live very near Salem. But there's also a more famous Salem called Salem, Massachusetts. So if I said I'm from Salem, they'd assume it was Massachusetts, not Oregon. Yeah. So yeah, there's assumptions going both ways that I have to fight when people ask, "Oh, where are you from?"
Yeah.
So my answer anymore is just Oregon.
Yeah.
So.
Just not. We're Salem hippy dippy, not Salem Bernie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. And last but not least on the news, there's 2 stories which I'll kind of condense down into one. And this is a little bit of movie and pop culture news. That is that because of the business closures, and we're going to talk about like malls, bars, restaurants, and moving into theaters. Movie theaters are now closed, pretty much nationwide.
Yeah.
You can't go see a movie right now.
Oh yeah, no, you can't.
Universal has taken an unusual step, and we're the first to do it. They started streaming on one of their streaming services movies that are currently in theaters. So if you subscribe to one of, and I don't remember which service it was, but if you subscribe to, I think Amazon Prime played one of them, and there was another one available on Hulu or something like that. If you subscribe to one of their subsidiary, movie groups, you could watch one of their movies that was currently in theaters. Now, I don't remember what movies there were right now because I don't remember what Universal has out in theaters right now, but kind of the bigger news to that is Pixar 2 days later announced that their brand new film Onward would also be available on Disney Plus starting on March 30th.
That's right.
So Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, April 3rd. The movie that was just released, I believe I think it was March 12th or something like that. It has not been in theaters very long.
No.
Is now going to be streaming on Disney Plus starting on April 3rd.
Yes. Though, I mean, to be fair, if you're a bit of a yar type of a guy, you can get it right now. But if
Steve.
you are, I'm not saying where you can get it.
Steve.
I'm just saying I know it's available out there in those type of.
Drink up me hearties yo ho.
Yeah, drink up. Yeah. The last thing that people are going to bust you for in this crisis is for pirating a movie. I severely
They're
doubt
letting go basically all nonviolent offenders. If you ever wanted to get out of a speeding ticket, now's the time.
Yeah.
According to Ted Bullion, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it. I've seen it already. I watched it the other day. It's a cute
Steve!
movie. It's a cute movie. It's fine. Good.
Yeah.
Pay the money for it. I didn't because I need the money for beer. I need the money for beer. So.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
All right. So we got about 10 minutes left in the show. I'm about 2/3 of the way through my beer.
Wow. You're gonna have a struggle finishing that. Or maybe we should, like, for the last 3 minutes, you should chug it.
It's still really good.
Oh no, I know it's really good. You may just want what you should have done when you're setting the glass down is slowly pouring it out into a secondary glass, so they didn't know that you still had plenty left.
I re-poured the pint. So
well, yeah, you have a 22. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, I'm already down most of a pint, and I'm back down to there in the glass. So I'm moving right along. Like I said, I'm 2/3 of the way through. Steve drops the F-bomb, but he can't say Pirate Bay.
I did not get it from Pirate Bay. I'm saying right now, I did not get it from Pirate Bay. I have more covert ways of getting it than Pirate Bay.
I'm gonna say you're a 1337X kind of guy.
Nope.
Really?
No, the place I get it from is very
exclusive.
Very exclusive.
Very exclusive.
Very exclusive. Maybe someday I can tell the history of how I got into this, but it's very, very small. One of the, it was okay. Never mind. I'll
It's off the grid.
Maybe I'll talk about it in Discord if somebody really.
There you go. Talk about it in the Discord. If you want to join the Discord, follow the links down in the video description.
I'll talk about it there.
Yep. So Steve, have you seen episode 9 of Picard?
No, I actually not. I have not seen it. I know this is the problem, and I explained this to you before. My wife likes Star Trek. She likes Picard. She likes these type of things. So, as soon as we get the episode, I have to wait for her.
Mm-hmm.
I would have watched this the day it came out, but I have to wait till when we can sit down and both watch it. Yep. So I have not seen it.
What's funny is my wife is not a Star Trek fan either, and we have watched every single episode of Picard on Thursday at 8:30 p.m.
Well, that's nice.
Every single one.
That's nice for you.
Yeah, and she loves them. Like she's like raring to go. Like, new episode of Picard. Let's hit it. Yes, I love you. Yeah. Even more now.
Yeah. So now I have. Well, there's 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
So I mean, well, there's one.
LOL.
Technically, there's one. Yeah.
LOL. He gets it from Jeff's Plex server.
Yes. No. I have my own Plex server.
Very exclusive. Yeah.
But I did actually. I've watched up to episode 8. I think.
Okay.
There's just 9 and 10 left.
Yeah.
And I watched the Red Letter Media synopsis of it too, which I don't necessarily agree with everything they say, but I find it very, very entertaining.
Right. I think I watched one for episode 4 and maybe another one for like episode 6, and then I went, "You guys are going at this, I think, from the wrong angle." It is kind of where I landed on it from. Is they're going for, we wanted it to be TNG and it's not, and I'm pissed off at that. And I don't like that, because they said from the very beginning, this is not just going to be TNG reimagined. This is going to be a new
I understand
thing.
That. And I understand that they come from a very cynical perspective.
Right.
And I get that. And that's okay. And I think they do that more from a popular perspective. Like, they tune into their channel expecting the rub, like a very critical burn into it. And it's entertaining, and it is, and they do make some good points, but I don't think they're right, because I still like Picard, and I still find it very entertaining, and I hope that the second season is just as good, because I've been actually quite liking the series so far.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it, and if I talk about this in like a general sense, it is definitely I think Patrick Stewart said this best. It is Star Trek to the core. It is what the heart of Star Trek has always been. with the exception of Discovery. I think Discovery has been the farthest deviant that we've had from actual Star Trek.
Right. Yeah.
Writing, production, cinematography, etc.
I'm not a big fan of Discovery.
No.
I think Discovery would have been good if it was not Star Trek. But and to be fair, there were a couple of episodes within the last 2 seasons that were very Star Trek of Discovery, and I really, really enjoyed those episodes.
If Discovery was Babylon 5, it would do well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right. But it's not Star Trek. It hasn't been Star Trek.
No, they had the one episode in season 1 where they had Rainn Wilson playing Harry Mudd, and they had that time shifting episode that had nothing to do with the overarching story. It was just a self-contained, very Star Trek-y episode. I really liked that one. And in season 2, they also had the one with Captain Pike. They actually went down to a planet. They beamed down. It was like a very quintessential classic Star Trek type episode.
Right.
Really enjoyed that episode. I wish they had more of those, to be honest.
Exactly. And I think my biggest issue with Discovery is they're trying to go too mass market with it. And what I mean is they're dumbing down a lot of the Trek speak. Now, Trek has always had this funny thing, and Futurama nailed it perfectly when they said they always explain the solution in a really complex way and then break it down with a simple analogy. Like we could recalibrate the tachyon beam, the deflector shield to emit a tachyon field that would, draw too much energy into the beast and cause it to rupture. Oh, like putting too much air into a balloon.
They're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Right. And so Star Trek has always had this wonderful way of doing that, of going, that just might work and whatnot. And you get all this tech speak, but it's all canon kind of and whatnot. Yeah. And it still feels futuristic while still allowing you to connect to a universe that's not your own. And where I feel Discovery started to go wrong is they actually said, oh, there's a problem in the SQL database. That's canon in Star Trek now. SQL still exists in 2245. Yes, and I could not be more furious at that. Yeah. But I think that's where they went wrong, is they're taking too much of a CSI approach in trying to be so mass market with it that they go, oh, SQL, I've heard of that. Yeah. Instead of just saying, oh, they've, so-and-so infiltrated our database and hacked our computer core and what. Like, you can use the Star Trek lingo for it and still sell it. Yeah. But you decided to go CSI with it. And they've decided to go that way with so many elements of their plot. It's completely lost me. It's no longer what Star Trek was. Now, I will defend Star Trek Picard because a lot of people are going, they've just like spit in the face of whatever it was and they're like shoving social justice warriors down our throat. Do you realize Star Trek was, number one, the first interracial kiss ever on TV, the first lesbian kiss ever on TV, the first this, the first that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I don't think that Picard is, destroying any canon or anything like that right now. I haven't seen it. No,
absolutely not.
But I do kind of agree with some of the Red Letter Media guys. It's like, well, the writers probably weren't big Star Trek fans. Maybe they watched the movies, and they're like, well, what's big? Like, oh, well, there's the Borg, and then there's the Romulans, and then they have all these different elements that they just wrote in there. Not that it broke canon per se, but it's like, okay, what was popular back when TNG was there, and let's just cram all that in there.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yes, and I agree. I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, because honestly, the most popular part of what made Star Trek, especially the Next Generation, were the Borg episodes and stuff like that. Those were the most memorable. People really related to those and really liked them. So it kind of makes sense that they would start out with that.
Yes. Right? And dealing with Picard, I think you have to integrate the Borg some way. You have to tell that. And especially if you want to connect with the Voyager audience, which was very heavily Borg, even more heavy than TNG was. I really liked the unification of Picard, Icheb, Hugh, and Seven all in the same, canon timeline. Right. And it's really funny because people thought Icheb's death was above and beyond what it should have been.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that.
It told the story that it needed to tell. And that's what Star Trek's always done very well, is it tells the story it needs to tell. And Star Trek has always been about current political events, the current environment and world that we're living in.
Yeah.
And in the 60s it was diversity. And so what did they do? They cast a black communications officer, an Irish or a Scottish engineer, a Russian helmsman, a Japanese or an Asian descent guy doing the other. It's
this was groundbreaking for the 60s, right?
Right.
I understand that. But they're not really doing anything groundbreaking here. They aren't. I mean, I don't.
Yes and no, because all of a sudden, in recent political climates, we've had all of a sudden racism is starting to bubble back to the top, and class disparity is bubbling back to the top. And Star Trek Picard hits on both of those, I think, very, very well, because
I'm not too sure that they kind of glance over that. They're more especially these last episodes where the whole Romulan conspiracy is coming to fruition.
There's the whole Romulan conspiracy.
It's more conspiratorial than anything.
Yes.
I mean, that's always. I mean, that's almost like going back to like X-Files type stuff.
But they had 10 episodes to tell their story, and so the story is going to be more condensed. Yeah. But if you look at some of the issues that have been kind of the minor issues of the greater Romulan, Borg, etc. conspiracy, you look at what's Picard's commander, first officer, who?
Riker.
Gosh, no, not Riker. The chick. Raffi.
Oh, Raffi. Yeah, Raffi. Okay,
You look at Raffi, and Raffi is, I don't want to say envious, but irritated with Picard, that Picard gave up his commission in Starfleet, and he gets to retire to his chateau. Yeah. And she is stuck living literally in a van in the middle of the desert. Because there's still haves and have-nots in this century, and that's kind of the first time we've got to see that in the Star Trek universe. That's the part that's kind of maddening for me, because it's like, okay, this universe where they can basically replicate whatever they want out of nothing. Why does she live in the trailer? Can she replicate what she wants to? I think she probably could, and I don't understand this class disparity. For what reason? It's like they shoved that in there that didn't really fit into the Star Trek universe, because the technology that they built around it doesn't just negates that altogether. You should be able to, like, if she wanted to, she could just replicate her own chateau furniture if she wanted to. Right, but does she live in the right place to do that? The place that she lives is the middle of the desert. But
that doesn't mean she has to live there. She can go to a place where she could live, where she can replicate whatever she wants. Right,
but think about the population growth in the last 3 or 4 generations. We've gone from like 4 billion to 7.
They don't explain that. They put that in there for a tension storyline, a haves and have-not storyline, where that was never in Star Trek before.
No, you hit on it exactly. That's always been in Star Trek. There's always been haves and have-nots, and
there's always been haves and have-nots between societies. But the Federation and the Earth,
they've never explored the Federation.
They were supposed to be past that already. We were supposed to be past all that.
Correct. They've never explored the Federation as a little bit dirty until they got to DS9 and they started exploring a little bit of like Section 31. And going, we flip people on the political sidelines to do our dirty work behind the scenes, and we kill people and we assassinate people. That was kind of the whole Section 31 thing with Bashir and Sisko in that timeline.
And I get that political thing, because it's political intrigue.
And they've always introduced races of species who had a certain problem, and TNG was probably the best at this, that introduced a race of individuals that had a problem that was plaguing society today within our own culture.
Right, but that was always outside the Federation.
Right, but all of a sudden
it was supposed to reflect our own, but not within the Federation herself, because we were supposed to be a more enlightened society.
To be better than that. Right.
Yes, exactly. And I understand that that's what always Star Trek was. Mm-hmm. You can have a science fiction setting where we were the more enlightened society, the Vulcans were supposed to be those other things, and then there were other races, there were other things that we encountered that was supposed to reflect the problems of the day that we had. Mm-hmm. But in Picard, especially with the Rafi character, they went back and they said that for some reason the Federation people now can't. It's mind-boggling to me. It's a little weird. I get it. They're trying to make a storyline. It doesn't really fit because they can't incorporate a secondary race to make this storyline.
Right, they can't incorporate a secondary race. This is the first time we've really seen the Federation.
Yeah, I get what they're trying to say. It just seems like a real shoehorned thing to me.
Right.
And it seems to be secondary to the whole storyline, to be honest. But
and honestly, it is secondary to the whole storyline, but at the same time, Star Trek has always told that storyline. They've always told it in some capacity. This is the first time they're using the Federation as the gateway to tell that storyline. Of broken families and class disparity and racism and things like that. Because the Federation has always been the open arms society. Right. I think all of a sudden it's hitting a little bit close to home. You know, you think about our lives here in the U.S. and how all of a sudden racism is a hot button topic again, and how class disparity is a hot button topic again. And I think reflecting that within the Federation timeline that they're showing is not a bad way to show that. All of a sudden, it's a little bit closer to home than we thought it was.
I don't think that they shouldn't do that, but the storyline they were trying to portray, it doesn't really seem to fit with the storyline they're trying to portray this season. I think it maybe would have been better if they just kept the storyline fairly straight with what they're doing right now, especially with the whole like synthetics. You know, and they don't want synthetics. There's a whole underlying theme behind that already.
But I think that's
relatable today. All right, this, you know, we don't like the synthetics because of some unfounded fear or whatever. There's already a underlying theme with today's society with that storyline. Why force another one?
Right, but I think kind of driving 2 points home at the same time with two very different classes of people and two very, you know, because on one hand you have the synths and on another hand you have Raffi. And Raffi was a very well-respected, you know, first officer in the Federation. And she was just cast aside and she has nothing to fall back on.
Yes and no. I mean, it's not really fleshed out that well. That's why I think maybe it should have been something that should have been pushed off to season 2. Something they can flesh out a little bit better,
and they might, you know.
And I'm not saying that they shouldn't do this. I'm just saying that it seems to be something that seems to be shoehorned in. It distracts from the main theme. It doesn't really seem to fit. They had that whole scene with her on that planet where she met with her son. It just kind of was there and then it was dropped. I don't know. It didn't seem to really mesh well with me and the whole thing. It seemed like filler that didn't need to be there.
So Leo in the chat has a couple of points.
Yeah.
Bad story writing. I kind of disagree with that. I don't know if it was the best storytelling, but I don't know if it was the best cinematography used. And honestly, I've said this on camera before. I could have done without the Raffi and the non-contact sun at whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever
it didn't need to be there.
Thing that I could have done without that entire storyline. It's
inconsequential, right?
Right. And they spent way too much time in an episode that was just plot building. That it's like, okay, all of a sudden Raffi's got this thing, but she's cool doing her job over here. But that's the only time we're ever going to hear about it. I could have done without that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, I think, the only real instance of bad writing and plot development that I've seen out of Star Trek Picard. Everything else has been pretty much to the point, and you know exactly where they're trying to point the ship to.
Okay, I also have a beef with the Riker episode. I didn't hate.
Oh no!
Wait, what happened?
My monitor just died, so all of a sudden your monitor is out. So hold on, like 20 seconds. I'm gonna go grab another battery here.
No. Well,
Give me a couple seconds. Keep talking.
All right, okay,
Audio is still good.
Okay, I'm gonna say my beef about the Riker episode, even though you're not here to defend it. And maybe I'm going to have to repeat it when you come back. But here's the thing. It was the most boring episode in the whole series. I love seeing Riker. I love seeing, you know, Diana Troy back again and getting a little bit of their backstory. I thought it was a boring episode. It had nothing to do with anything that was happening. I know it was there for just fan service. It's like, okay, look, we got Riker here now and everything like that. It didn't advance the plot anything. it hardly advanced the characters. It was just like, we have Riker and Troy here. Please watch the episode. That's what I felt like it was. It was the weakest episode, I think. I haven't. Well, to be fair, I haven't watched the last one, but all
honestly,
the episodes, I thought it was the weakest one.
What I feel was the weakest episode was episode 2. I felt you started so strong, and then you have one that kind of went, eh. All of a sudden we learn about Picard's diagnosis, that he only has so long to live, and you're hearing about Agnes's issues, and she gets visited by the constable, and it was all like this insidious like plot development, and the story had to be there, but the way they told 20 years of history in about 30 minutes in the first episode made me wish they did the same thing in the second episode. But the second episode, all they did was spend about 30 minutes telling you about 30 minutes worth of plot. And it was like, so...
I mean, no, I get that. And I agree, that was also pretty rushed.
Yes.
But I mean, the highlight of the Riker episode is when he burnt the tomato.
Yeah.
That was like...
Cancel red alert!
I burnt the tomato! That was it.
And I will agree, that was probably my second least favorite.
I like seeing those characters again. I really did. But it was a weak episode. It was not a very good episode.
I will say, out of the 9 episodes I've seen, I think 6 of them have been really good.
Yeah.
I think one of them has been great, and that was episode 1. I thought episode 1 was great.
No, I did too. It definitely hooked you in. It got you excited for the rest of the series, especially if you were a big fan of Next Generation. Mm-hmm. It was not only reminiscent of the movies, but it was also reminiscent of the original series. So it did. It got you going. If the rest of the episodes were exactly like that, it probably would have been much better. It's a mixed bag for me right now. It really is. Yeah. I like it. I like it much better than Discovery. Yes. I will 100% say that. But like we've said a million times before, even the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation wasn't that great. Maybe it'll get better. Yeah, it got really good. Last half of second season, third season is when it really hit its
I would say literally start halfway through season 3 and just go from there.
Yeah.
For TNG.
Yeah.
And I would say watch like the first 6 episodes of DS9 and then skip forward to the season finale.
Well, I mean, and also towards the end of the Next Generation, there were some ridiculous episodes at the time.
Got to 4, then 3 more.
There were some ridiculous episodes there too, and I get it, but back then it was the 90s. It's a different time, man.
It was a different time.
You had
27 episodes
27
to tell your
episodes
plot.
to fill. You can't have every single one of them to be a winner, right?
But yeah, no. Overall, I think Picard has been very, very solid.
Yes.
Is it perfect? No. But what first season of any series of any time has been perfect?
Yeah.
And remember, we're also entering into this with very, very high expectations.
Yeah.
Because TNG is seen as either a 1 or a 1B to Star Trek lore.
Yeah.
It's either, John and you who think TNG is literally the best thing ever, or people like me who think DS9 is the best thing ever, and Next Generation is the best thing ever, but only 6 seasons worth.
No. Honestly, the Next Generation is what vaulted Star Trek to Star Trek. Because back in the time, the only thing we had were the original series and the movies.
Yes.
And at the point where Next Generation...
And only 2 of the movies were good.
Right, exactly. Well, okay.
2.5.
It's 2.5, I would say.
2.5.
I mean, Star Trek.
They made 6. They could have done it in 3.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, when did Next Generation come out, and which Star Trek movies were out at the time?
87, and I think everything but Undiscovered Country was out.
Now, Undiscovered Country, I actually liked. I liked Undiscovered.
You did?
I did. I thought it was pretty good.
Wow.
I liked it much better than...
I can't believe you said that out loud.
I liked it better than...
Search for Spock was crap.
It was. This is what this is based on, but it was crap. But 4, The Voyage Home was great. Very good.
My favorite TOS movie is 4.
Excellent.
Bar none.
And then what was the one with 5, which
5.
was
5 is number 2 for me.
God Search for God with Spock's half brother, which
Yeah.
was produced out of thin air. That was garbage. Undiscovered Country after that wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't Voyage Home and it wasn't Wrath of Khan. I get it, but it wasn't bad.
Right.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was the consolatory prize that you got.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
You finished the race. Here's your ribbon.
Yeah,
Everyone got
that's
one.
What it was. That's what it
Right.
was. It wasn't horrible. So, and up to that point, that's what everybody expected. And so, Next Generation really vaulted the people's love of Star Trek that much higher. So
Yes.
that's why Picard was such an anticipated thing, because it was supposed to be reminiscent of that and what people were expecting. Even though you're right, they even said ahead of time this is not going to be TNG. But that's what brought butts to the
Yes.
This is what
and you can argue with it as much as you want. You can say, oh, they spit in the face of this thing, or that's not canon, or why would they ever do this? Every Star Trek has to cut its own path. And I think all of them have done a very, very good job at that. Even Discovery has cut its own path, and it is very unique from the other five. You know,
I think it cut its own path a little too much.
It did. It really did.
It's a little too much.
It went a little too diversive for the main Star Trek fandom, trying to go a little bit too mainstream, and it kind of missed both markets, in my opinion. Even Enterprise has some good episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of Enterprise. I think Voyager was overall great, but I think the 7-year storytelling was kind of crap in general. You know, and so as a whole story, I don't like Voyager, but I love individual episodes of Voyager, and I would totally watch the whole thing through.
Well, that's the thing, is like it's very popular now to have an overarching story. Whereas like back in the day,
popularized by DS9.
Okay, yes, it's true. But DS9 also had a lot of sprinkled in individual episodes where the beginning to end, and
where O'Brien was a god on a storm-covered country.
Yes, exactly. But they had but that was also very popular at the time too, because DS9 was also the same time of like X-Files. X-Files was the same thing.
X-Files, SG-1.
Yes, they have an overarching storyline, but the overarching storyline episodes were few and far in between.
Yes.
The ones in the middle were individual episodes.
Right, it's a 25-episode series, and you have 4 episodes that really progress the story
along. And so
along.
maybe the individual episodes weren't brilliant, but you tuned in because maybe this was going to be an episode that was an overarching episode that would flush out the big storyline. Deep Space Nine was part of that too. So that was part of the pioneering mainstay of telling these type of stories.
Yes.
Nowadays, like with Voyager or Discovery, and even with Picard, every episode has to progress the story like it's a big long movie.
Yes, you've got. All of a sudden, we're in a Game of Thrones style storytelling. You know, and really, you go back to West Wing, 24. Breaking Bad.
24, Breaking Bad.
I think 24 was kind of the first one where every single story progresses the plot.
Well, it had to be, because the whole premise was, this is a continuation. This was an hour real time. It had to be. And you're right. And this is a more popular way of telling a story now. I'm not super convinced that the people who are writing for Star Trek do a very good job of it.
And I'll agree with that, because in Picard, I think Picard has been very, very good. I'm going to give it like a B+. It's not an A. It's not an A by any stretch of the imagination.
I would give it a B-, but we're still in the same wheelhouse. We're getting close.
Right. And I think that's, we'll give it a solid B. I think a solid B is kind of what it deserves. It's given enough fan service without focusing on it.
Yep.
You had the Riker and Troy episode, which was kind of a weaker episode, but at the same time had some phenomenal moments inside of it.
Yes.
And gave enough fan service, but didn't focus on it. It wasn't the primary reason they were there. Right. The primary reason they were there was not fan service. It was to progress the plot.
Holy crap! Did you just see that?
What's that?
On the super chat, Vlad just showed up.
Vlad, hey Vlad, how's it going, man?
I haven't seen him in forever.
Vlad,
where'd you come from?
I've been missing your hot tips of the week, man.
I know.
I've been to Vegas and I was without your expert advice. What the hell's going on? Are you guys working from home? I am, and it's a bit weird, but Air Force Base in California suggested it for us subcontractors. Hope all is well. Steve works from home full-time and has for a couple of years. I am working from home at the moment, and it's been a little interesting. It has been a little bit of a learning experience as far as how I need to measure my time and things like that. But, I've been having beer most days at noon, and it's been a pretty great way to do it.
It's been great, yes. As a seasoned veteran, Jeff, I will have you say, having a beer at lunchtime, and then even
it's a game changer.
And then continuing on, like you have a beer with lunch, and then you sit down, you do some work, and then you're feeling pretty good, and then about the 3:30 level, you have a cocktail.
Yeah, the Balmer Peak fades just enough where you go, I need to hit it till 5.
That's the perfect thing right there.
Yeah, yep.
I love that. That's the best thing.
The Balmer Peak is real and underrated.
Yes, and I've done a lot of experimentation with it over the last 2 years from working home. So I should know. You should definitely start drinking with lunch, so you have food in your stomach. If you start drinking without food in your stomach, that's going to crash your Balmer Peak way too fast. You're going to get way too loopy way too fast.
You go way too high and then you cut way too low.
You want to have some food, have a little drink, your peak goes up. As soon as it starts going down, you have a little pick-me-up, and you just ride that wave up until 5 o'clock, and you're good.
I love it.
Yeah, it's very good.
Advice from the master right here.
Yeah, I've done it.
On Craft Computing. This is why you tune in.
Yeah, so have a beer with lunch, after you eat lunch or with lunch. And then about an hour and a half later, have a cocktail, and then you should be just riding that wave.
Yeah. But anyway, I think a B overall for Picard is a very fair grade. Because, like I said, 6 out of the 9 episodes have been very, very good, verging on great.
Yeah,
there's been a couple... episode 2, as high as number 1 started, I think 2 is the weakest in the series. And then... I do agree. The plot building through episode 7 to 10th was just a little bit too slow. It was it was playing on it a little bit too much, and I could have used them getting off of that. I could have used a little bit more of Hugh and Seven and Elnor on the cube, kind of fighting off their threat instead of just being on this planet and eating bunny corn. And so I didn't like that one very much. And there was one in the middle, too. I think episode 5 was just kind of like, eh.
One of the things I like, one of the things that I actually, and I don't know if you watched the last Red Letter Media thing, one of the things that they mentioned that I actually really agree with is why did they have to have 2 secret societies within Romulans that are comprised of all women? 2 of them.
The Tal Shiar is not all women. I'll stop them there.
No, okay, they're okay, but they both have. And there's another thing they also mentioned in the episode too, is that they do have one token guy in both factions.
And he's very attractive.
Yeah, they're both. Yeah, okay. One is the samurai guy, and one the more attractive one, right? That they even.
That's true because
the one that they mentioned in the very first episode is like, oh, I didn't notice there were attractive Romulan guys. You know? It's. I mean, not that I care either way, but the fact that they put 2 of them in the same series for some weird reason, it seemed weird that they. Did that. I don't understand. It would make more sense if they had okay, maybe this faction was all men and this faction was all women, and they were kind of clashing with each other, and that would make sense within a society, right? I mean, that would also placate into the whole we're looking into society type of a thing, and here's a allegory for it. That would make more sense. But they have ninja nuns versus fanatical women over. It's it seemed weird.
Yeah, fanatical cultists.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They had 2 of them within the Romulan culture. It just
that is an interesting point. I hadn't thought of the nuns and all of a sudden the Zat Vash as being kind of the same. Yeah. Outcast Romulan extremists, but kind of they are.
Yeah.
I hadn't considered that.
Yeah. It seemed weird, and they brought that up in. I don't know if you watched it. Did you watch?
Like I said, I only watched 2 of the Red Letter Medias.
Okay, I would highly recommend this last one. It's very good. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but it's very entertaining. I think it's very entertaining. Yeah. Their takes on things I think is very good. Just entertaining at least.
Yeah. But I think if we put like a nice bow on Picard, now obviously this is all going to change at midnight when the new episode releases.
Yes, it's coming out tonight. Dropping tonight.
Right, but I think if I were to put a nice bow on Picard, I'd give it a solid B plus,
sure.
trending B plus.
Sure, of course. I would give it 2.
I think overall, for a first season in a new series telling a new plot line with characters that you recognize, but putting them into a brand new story and brand new situation, I think it's been really, really well done. There's been a couple of misses, but overall canon has been preserved.
Yeah.
Overall storylines and plot lines have been preserved. There's a lot we don't know that happened between the end of Voyager and the beginning of Picard.
Right.
You know, we don't know what Seven went through. At the end of Voyager, all we knew was that Seven and Chakotay were going to get hitched. And all of a sudden,
Obviously,
7 of 9... Right, and all of a sudden 7 of 9 is like a glorified bounty hunter.
Yeah, I know.
And something happened in the middle of that.
Storyline behind that. And I think there was even a rumor, I think John posted it.
Star Trek Rangers.
Star Trek Rangers may be a thing with 7 of 9. If it gets some backstories, that could also be entertaining. That would be great. I would watch that as well.
Right?
And I agree with you. This I wouldn't call it perfect, and there's obviously lots of cracks in the storyline, but I look at it as pure entertainment value.
Right. I think one of my biggest...
I've been entertained, and so I like it.
Yeah. I think one of my biggest problems from a visual standpoint, and there's very little to critique visually with this series. Cinematography-wise, Star Trek Picard is one of the most beautiful shows I can remember watching. It is... God, as like a camera geek, I am just like nerding over like... That camera move was amazing. And my wife's going, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm like, dude, they panned like... Yeah. I'm doing like that kind of crap while I'm watching this show. But the way they're showing the story and the colors and the visuals and the fabric and the textures and the way they're telling the story is very personal and very intimate. And I love it. But the one thing that I don't like is that all of their... interfaces are not all holographic.
Yeah, this new ship that this ragtag.
I don't so much mind Rios's ship as it's a newer ship and maybe you have this new interface and it's kind of holographic.
Okay,
but why
they don't say it's a newer ship though? It's his own ship.
But why does the Borg ship have the same GUI interface as the new Starfleet ship?
And it's supposed to be an artifact, right?
It's supposed to be a decommissioned Borg cube that's been lost for 14 years. And why is 7 of 9 doing like...
This has always been an inconsistency throughout all of Star Trek. You look at the interfaces that the original series had, they were like bejeweled buttons on a console.
Yes.
Right? Okay, and so when they had like the Deep Space Nine episode where they went back in time, and they're like, well, we still have to use these bejeweled buttons, which looks ridiculous now.
Right.
Compared to our LCARS interface, which was the norm now.
Right. Which all of a sudden the Cardassians adopted for some reason.
Right. I know. Right. It's like, how is this?
I've always kind of accepted that maybe touchscreens are the way to go, and maybe all the different factions kind of standardized on like you have a panel displaying real-time information with real-time feedback. But at the same time, I always kind of question DS9 as far as you can't install Starfleet protocols and OSs and whatnot onto a Cardassian space station.
Yeah.
And thereforth, and whether or not you're all on binary or ASIC or whatever the bloody hell your underlying system is, you're not going to all of a sudden hack into the alien artifact, a la, Independence Day hacking into the alien ship with a MacBook, or a Power PC Performa or whatever the heck his character had. But so I forgave the GUI interface for like 15 years, as far as like the touchscreen interface, as far as like they all kind of settled on like that's what they like.
Right.
What I don't like about Picard is that every single interface you see, from the Borg to the Romulan to the Federation to Soong's laboratory, is all of a sudden a holographic interface, and it's all up here.
Well, because
someone had to have been using some technology that was 15 years old.
You want to mention that? Let's go one step further.
Are we shooting for 3 hours, by the way?
I know,
it's 10:30.
I've had 3 beers. I really have to pee.
This is a really big beer, by the way.
I know. But let me make this final point, because you make a good point about the holographic interfaces. Well, let's take it one step further.
Mm-hmm.
The whole premise around Picard is the Romulans' hatred for synthetic life, right? They hate synthetic life because there is a Mass Effect type storyline where once you reach this threshold of artificial life, something bad is gonna happen.
What are they called?
Yeah, the I forget.
It's gonna come and they're synthetic and they're gonna destroy all life.
But they seem to have no problem with holographic artificial intelligence. That's cool.
Right, they have smart assistants.
They have artificial intelligent holograms on Rios' ship, pretty much doing 5 different positions successfully, which is fine.
Oh, I'm his medical hologram.
That's fine, as long as they're not androids. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. It's a big plot hole, but whatever. It's still entertaining. I get it.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, overall B+. I love the direction they went. I love that it is very different from anything Star Trek I've ever seen, but it is still familiar enough, and the characters are still themselves enough. Even Picard. Picard is a very different Picard.
Yes,
this is the first time we've seen anything outside of the dream he had in First Contact, where he has had an issue with being a former Borg.
And this is where I differentiate from like a lot of people are saying this is not the Picard from the Next Generation. He was a very stiff, diplomatic guy.
Right.
This is not the same Picard, but it makes sense because he's older, wiser. He thinks that what he was back then maybe wasn't the right way of doing things. He's more compassionate. I that's fine. I don't care about that. That's okay.
I have a brain. You haven't seen the most recent episode, but it's really funny. I'm going to spoil one minor plot point for you. His most funny line that he's ever delivered is that he's being scanned because he got knocked out after the transwarp conduit. So you saw him going into the transwarp conduit. I saw him coming out of the transwarp conduit from the Borg after episode 8. And he gets knocked out from that. Well, anyway, Dr. Girardi's sitting there scanning him with an old medical tricorder. And he goes, "Where am I?" And, "Oh, we crash landed on the planet. All of our power's out. And I found this old tricorder and I could scan you." And he goes, "Well, am I okay?" And she goes, "Well, I don't know. Maybe the tricorder's malfunctioning." And he realizes she found the brain abnormality that's going to kill him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so he's like, "Well, what's wrong?" And she's like, "Well, maybe the tricorder's malfunctioning." He goes, "Ah, okay." And so he walks out to the main like forum kind of area, and he talks to everyone. He goes, "Everyone, may I have your attention? I just want to let you know I have a brain condition that has recently progressively gotten worse. It is terminal, and I don't want to talk about it. And anyone who focuses on it runs the risk of pissing me off."
Don't talk about piss right now.
Right, and I just found that absolutely hilarious from his character.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, like 4 characters come to him over the course of that story and go like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, oh, you poor old man." And he's like, "Get the fuck off me." Yeah. But just that one little like interaction, like you still see that like stoic Picard. I have a brain condition. It's going to kill me. I don't want to talk about it. And all of a sudden you have 4 characters hanging off and going, "Oh my God, can you talk about this? Oh, I'm so sorry, old man." So anyway, I think I'm going to relieve Steve right here.
Yeah, thank you. Let's do the last 2 super chats before
Yes.
I go. Okay, we have Skull. Hardest question is to Irish Coffee, not to Irish Coffee. always Irish coffee, especially
Always
when we're
Irish
home.
coffee.
I'm going to do that. I usually watch your live stream in my garage in my smart TV while I work side business. I've been around, but didn't come out much. No keyboard. Fine, great. We love you, Vlad. Comment more.
Vlad, thank you for staying around. Keep those super chats
go.
coming.
I gotta
Yes. Okay.
All right,
Steve,
love you guys.
I'll see you later.
All right, see you guys.
This has been episode 125 of Talking Heads. Thank you so much for joining us on this very unique situation where we will be broadcasting remote for the foreseeable future as long as we are in a situation of shelter in place and social distancing. This beer has been phenomenal. Again, this is the Deschutes The Abyss 2019 Reserve 11.2% barrel-aged stout. I highly recommend one if you can pick one up. But anyway, please join us every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific time for the latest in beer and tech news. I would highly recommend it. And if you have not already, make sure to check out my Patreon down in the video description below. You get exclusive access to my Discord server where you can join my, exclusive Discord server and get access to talk with myself as well as the other hosts from Talking Heads pretty much any time of day. And quite honestly, your donations really do help bring content directly to the channel. They do help keep things flowing here. So if you have thought about joining the Patreon and been a little hesitant, I can tell you the money goes directly back into the channel. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you know that, and I hope to see more of you soon. Anyway, make sure to catch us next week at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Follow me on Twitter at Craft Computing. Follow Steve Into the Abyss because he doesn't want anyone to know what his Twitter handle is. And as always, we will see you next Wednesday. Cheers, all.